issues. And again, you don't have to love everything about him. You might not even want to hang out with Donald Trump. But whenever you look at your life and the future for this country, you know between these two individuals, you cannot survive 4 more years of what this country has just been through. And that is exactly what a Kamala Harris administration would be. Donald Trump's policies worked. They made life better for people all across this country. They kept us safe. And he will do it again with 4 more years in the White House.
All right. Laura Trump, thank you for being with us. Let's bring in our chief White House correspondent, Peter Alexander, who is covering Vice President Harris's campaign. What's the view from there?
Well, Lester, let's start with some new reporting into NBC News. According to 3 people familiar with their conversations, Kamala Harris and the former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton, the 2016 Democratic nominee, we have learned, have spoken within the last several days, where Clinton provided Harris advice and guidance as the only other woman to do a debate like this, one-on-one with Donald Trump in the past. Among that advice, we're told specifically that Clinton told Harris that Trump may try to bait her during the course of the conversation, as we've witnessed in the past, and specifically said that if that happens, that she should turn it back on Donald Trump himself and try to provoke him directly. One thing to keep an eye on as we anticipate these two on stage a short time from now. We're told that Clinton and Harris have spoken several times over the course of the last several months since she became the Democratic nominee. We've also been hearing from those in and around the Harris preparations for this debate, telling us, among other things, that she had a series of mock debate sessions, many of them happening here in the state in Pittsburgh. In the course of that time, they had a TV lighting. They had, so she could have the real experience and the stage on which she would stand, that she has watched some debate clips of Donald Trump in the past to prepare herself for what she may anticipate tonight. We're also hearing now from her husband. Of course, he is the second gentleman of the United States. Could he be the first gentleman if he wins? Well, if she wins, what we heard from him in the form of a tweet a short time ago, where he said in part, and I'll pull it up to read to you, Kamala, I can't wait for everyone to see you in action tonight. You've got this, and I've got you. Earlier in a separate post, he said that she is ready. He could tell it by looking into her eyes, and said that she can smell weakness and knows how to confront a coward. Her campaign, her aides are hoping that her experience as a former prosecutor will benefit her tonight the same way that she prosecuted some of those Supreme Court nominees in the past. Brett Kavanaugh, one that becomes very readily familiar as people look back at her experiences in the Senate, that she'll be able to prosecute the case against Donald Trump tonight. All things to keep an eye on as we get started here on a historic evening in Philadelphia.
All right, Peter, thank you. For more, let's bring in North Carolina Governor Roy Cooper, who is a surrogate for the Harris campaign. Governor, it's good to see you. So 60% of voters, nearly 60% in a recent poll, said they want to see change. Kamala Harris is the incumbent vice president. How do you make the argument that she's a change candidate when she's been in office for 3.5 years?
Well, first, the record that she and Joe Biden have established as president and vice president of bringing change to this country with investment in high-speed internet, fighting prescription drug costs, expanding health insurance, investing in infrastructure. Those things are long generational investments that are changing America, and that's a good thing. But she's also laid out her own economic plan. She sees that people are facing higher costs. She understands child care, unlike Donald Trump, who clearly doesn't have a clue about child care. Neither does J.D. Vance, who thinks that grandparents and uncles and aunts should look after children. She wants to reinstate the child care tax credit. She wants to help small businesses instead of big corporations. So I think she can lead tonight. She can lead with her path for a new way forward and really bring a lot of people who have been disaffected, who really haven't voted the last few times. I think that she can excite them. History is going to be made this year, and North Carolina voted for Barack Obama in 2008. We're going to vote for Kamala Harris in 2024 and make history again.
Governor, let me ask you, in a recent interview, Harris seemed to shrug off some of the personal attacks that Donald Trump has levied her way, calling it from the playbook of the past. Will she have to take on these things more directly in this debate setting tonight?
Well, it'll be interesting to see that in the middle of all of his word salads and lies, which we know are coming, whether he hurls insults at her while she's there in person. We'll see if he does. I suspect that she will brush them off pretty quickly and head into making sure she's putting meat on the bones of her policy, telling the country about the direction that she wants to take it, making sure that we shore up the middle class, making sure that the tax breaks go to the middle class and not the billionaire friends of Donald Trump. She's going to distinguish herself from Donald Trump in a strong way. And I think those insults, whether they come or not on the stage, she'll go right past them and make sure she's sticking to the issues that the American people will care about.
You know, it's interesting you say that because today on debate day, the Harris campaign released an ad seeming to want to goad Donald Trump with a clip from the convention. Let me roll you a little portion of this.
Here's a 78-year-old billionaire who has not stopped whining about his problems.
Oh, she had a big crowd. Oh, the crowd.
This weird obsession with crowd sizes.
Interesting because everybody says they want to talk about policy and then everyone kind of gets down in the dirt a little bit and that turns voters off. So why do you think this is effective? And are you sure it's not going to make people think, well, this is just more of the same?
Well, look, there are a lot of ads in this campaign, and a lot of them are about her policies and her backgrounds. Her background. She's not going to let this distract her. And she's not going to take any crap from Donald Trump on that stage today. She is a prosecutor, and she's going to make sure that she gets her points across. But she's not going to be distracted by the name calling. I think it is turning off America, and it may be one of the reasons why the Harris campaign chose to run such an ad, reminding people that this is really what Donald Trump is all about. It's all about him and his narcissism, and every decision that he makes comes back to whether it will advantage him or not. And when Kamala Harris talks about how she gets up every morning wanting to do good things for the American people, I think people will see the real difference. This is a race about character, too. This is a race about the soul of our country, and people are going to be making that decision. This debate will be a time tonight to make some decisions for people. I'm hoping we can bring in people who haven't been involved in the process that much in the past. More than half of our volunteers the first couple of weeks in North Carolina were first-time volunteers. We've got a lot of first-time donors to the campaign. You can go to KamalaHarris.com and contribute to the campaign. So we're excited. We think tonight will be a big night. We'll see what happens.
All right. Governor, thanks so much for spending time with us this evening. We appreciate it. We're going to get back to politics in a second, but we do have some breaking news in the South we're following, where Francine just strengthened into a Category 1 hurricane. That storm barreling toward Texas and Louisiana with life-threatening conditions expected along the Gulf Coast. Francine expected to make landfall tomorrow with the New Orleans metro area under a hurricane watch. Al Roker is tracking the storm. Al, what can we expect?
Well, we are looking for some really serious weather over the next 48 hours along the Gulf. Right now, it's 350 miles southwest of Morgan City, Louisiana, 75-mile-per-hour winds, so it's just barely a Category 1. But we're not worrying about the categories. We're worrying about the impacts. We're talking about hurricane warnings right now throughout much of Louisiana. New Orleans under a hurricane watch. Tomorrow, sometime around 5, 6 o'clock, we're expecting the worst conditions around 6 till Thursday at 2 a.m. in New Orleans. What we're expecting, 3 to 6 inches of rain or more, 60-mile-per-hour winds, and isolated tornadoes as well. Now, as the system pushes onshore, and this is what we're talking about, don't worry about categories, impacts. Baton Rouge could see 95-mile-per-hour wind gusts. At these winds, we're looking at power outages, damage to homes, and with that wind, the dangers. This is where the most deadly effect is. The storm surge from central Louisiana to Grand Isle, about 10 feet of surge, 4 to 7 feet as you move further to the east, 3 to 5 feet in New Orleans, and heavy rain. This area has already seen a lot of rain in the last 7 days. Well, they're going to get anywhere from 2 to 4 inches per hour falling. That means more likely we're going to be seeing very severe flooding and storm totals, guys. upwards of 12 inches, especially along the southern Gulf. But as we get into the Mississippi River Valley, 3 to 5 inches as well possible. The only silver lining there is that the water levels for the Mississippi are really down. They're worried about shipping, so this could help. But those folks right along the Gulf are in harm's way.
We'll see it bright and early tomorrow, Al.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, on the Today Show. Thank you.
And we're going to take a short break here, but still ahead tonight, we'll show you the biggest debate moments of Kamala Harris and Donald Trump as they gear up to debate each other and meet in person for the very first time. That's coming up right after this.
Wix gives you the freedom to tell your story with a professional website that reflects who you are and what you have to offer. Customize every element of your website to meet your needs and achieve your goals. Create a unique visual experience that enhances your product and amplifies your message. Expand your website with content that pushes your business forward. Share content that matters to your audience. And present it the way you envision it, from the biggest ideas to the smallest details. Your website, your voice, your platform.
What brought the need for One Main was a perfect storm of bills and expenses. When I decided I needed a little extra money, I did visit the One Main website, and the first thing I look for are the customer reviews. Being involved with One Main assists me with wanting to be better about finances.
Oh, shit.
We're talking possibly a trillion galaxies.
Yes.
That is a number that is just so hard to compute.
Whether it's the moon, whether it's Mars, it feels like we're on the cusp of something big.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back. This is our special coverage of tonight's presidential debate between Vice President Kamala Harris and former President Donald Trump. We will bring that debate to you live in its entirety once it begins.
And a lot has been made of this. The first time these two candidates have appeared on the same stage. They have never debated each other before tonight, and they've never even met. So what can we expect? We have a closer look at their biggest moments from past debates and what that could tell us about what we could see tonight.
Our senior Washington correspondent, Hallie Jackson's been walking down memory lane with the archive tape. Hi, Hallie.
And it is quite a fascinating walk, Savannah, and Because yes, you said it, their first meeting ever, their first debate ever, but it is not the first time that either has stepped on a debate stage, period, with some of the most memorable moments from the past, perhaps providing some clues for tonight. Tonight, the first face-off between two candidates with different prep, different styles, and different experience. For Vice President Harris, her first time stepping into this kind of general election spotlight after memorable moments in primary and VP debates.
Mr. Vice President, I'm speaking. I'm speaking.
Harris, no stranger to the stage, from early in her career to her Senate run in 2016, when her opponent awkwardly dabbed.
So there's a clear difference between the candidates in this race. And I think the voters will make that decision.
Allies point to Harris's past as a prosecutor and arguing her experience helps shape sharp arguments.
Whatever the vice president is claiming the administration has done, clearly it hasn't worked.
And Harris drawing on her personal background, like in this key exchange in the 2020 primary with her future boss.
You also worked with them to oppose busing. And you know, there was a little girl in California who was part of the second class to integrate her public schools. And she was bused to school every day. And that little girl was me.
But Harris has had to play defense, too, like in another debate that cycle, accused of hypocrisy for shifting to a more progressive position in a crowded primary.
There are too many examples to cite, but she put over 1,500 people in jail for marijuana violations and then laughed about it when she was asked if she ever smoked marijuana.
For his part, Mr. Trump has more debate experience as a presidential nominee, 6 in all, most recently in June, a showdown that ultimately ended President Biden's presidential run.
We finally beat Medicare. Well, he's right, he did beat Medicaid, beat it to death.
Their first ever debate in 2020, notable just as much for what Mr. Trump didn't say when asked if he'd condemn white supremacists.
I'm willing to do anything. I want to see peace.
Then do it, sir.
Say it. Do it. Say it.
What?
What do you want to call him? What do you want to call him? Give me a name. Give me a
White
name.
supremacists and
Who would
white
you like me to condemn?
White supremacists and right
Proud
boys.
Boys, stand back and stand by.
Then candidate Trump's first debate against Hillary Clinton in 2016 still holds the record for the most watched ever, 84 million viewers. At later face-offs, the two sparring over foreign policy and Russia's Vladimir Putin.
Well, that's because he'd rather have a puppet as president of the United
puppet,
States.
no puppet.
And it's pretty clear.
You're the puppet.
Mr. Trump memorably looming behind his opponent on stage. At other points, delivering personal attacks.
Such a nasty one.
And earlier in the Republican primaries, responding to a crass insult about the size of his hands.
Look at those hands. Are they small hands? I guarantee you there's no problem.
Now, tonight, Vice President Harris hoping to make good on past pledges.
I'd wipe the floor with him.
But according to the rules of this debate, it's former President Trump who will get the last word.
We're going to make it great again.
Now, some of those moments that you just saw may be mitigated by the rules we've been talking about at tonight's debate. Think about those mics muted when it's not each candidate's turn to speak. That may cut down on some of that overtalk or interruptions, if you will. There's also, of course, the rule that each candidate must stay behind their microphone. No stage wandering, a la 2016. Lester, Savannah?
All right. Thanks so much, Hallie. For more on what we can expect from both candidates tonight, let's bring in President Biden's former White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki and Donald Trump's former Deputy White House Press Secretary Hogan Gidley. Good to have both of you here today. Jen, let me start with you. I think it's fair to say a lot of Democrats were rattled by those latest New York Times Siena poll numbers. Is part of the vice president's mission and task tonight to reassure Democratic voters that all is well?
I think it's part of the mission, but the other part of the mission is to think about that 28% in that same poll of people who want more information about her. So what's tricky about this, Lester, if you're the vice president, is a lot of Democrats out there have been waiting for somebody to eviscerate Donald Trump. They might, progressive Democrats and other Democrats who might be rooting for that. That is not the right strategy for the totality of this debate, because that 28% who want more information, who want to know more about her positions, that may not be what they're looking for.
Well, she has the most to gain or lose because she has 30% roughly of the electorate that's still curious. Hogan, as I bring you in here, Donald Trump, I mean, for better or for worse, it's a very calcified, set in stone opinion that people have. Some love him, love him, love him. Some do not love him, love him, love him. So what is his number one job tonight?
I think what he's going to try and do is make people remember his record while he was president. And then what Kamala Harris is going to try and do is make people forget
get her record as vice president. People remember they could afford gas and groceries just a few short years ago. There weren't wars breaking out all over the world. We had a rational, sane southern border policy. So he's got to remind people of that. He's got to expose her radical record at the same time, but he needs to stay on message. He needs to focus on what the American people care about every single day and not run rabbits. There's no doubt she's going to have those can lines ready to go, those contrived stories like she did in the package that you guys just played. Look, she called Joe Biden a racist and a rapist on a debate stage, had merchandise ready to go, but she couldn't parlay that into anything positive for her campaign. She'll do that to Donald Trump tonight. The question becomes, will he follow her down that trail, or will he stick to the points that the American people care about most?
And Jen, does the vice president have to have things that she wants to remind the public about in terms of history?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, one of the challenges for her is that every candidate wants to be the change candidate, right? You have a former president and a sitting vice president, so they're not the natural change candidates. She has to figure out on this debate stage how she can both embrace part of her record that people may like and also build on it and tell people that she's going to do something different. That is very tricky.
Sounds like you're saying she has a higher bar.
She does have a higher bar. I think there's higher expectations for her. I will say, I'm not sure that looking in the past, that's not what the public is really looking for. We know that from every election ever. People want a forward-looking plan and vision. So the other part of what she needs to do is tell people exactly what she's going to do.
Do you think she's made it unnecessarily hard on herself in this particular moment? Because she hasn't done very much off the cuff, unscripted. She did one interview since being elevated to the top of the ticket. Now it's this night. Does that just ratchet up the stakes when they don't need to be ratcheted up any higher?
I actually think the biggest challenge for her is that she's never met him before or interacted with him before. And she is a studious, thorough prepper, which I think is good no matter what political party you're from. That's a good thing. But it also means you have to let go of those briefing books and be in the moment. Donald Trump is not a standard traditional policy debating candidate. So it requires a different muscle. And I think she's never practiced that muscle before. And that's the piece that I think is going to be challenging.
Respond. I've got a question for you.
Just quickly. It's interesting because you do want to look in the future. There's no doubt about that. The problem with Kamala Harris is every time she starts to say, I promise you I will, on day one I'm going to, Donald Trump can just say, but you're the sitting vice president right now. Either you can't do those things or you won't. Either way, I don't think the American people are going to buy it.
You both know him very well. Lara Trump just told us a few moments ago he's going to be calm, cool, and collected. Raise your hand if you think he will be.
Like always.
Yeah.
What are you talking about? He's always calm.
Is that the worst thing that could happen to Kamala Harris?
If he is calm, cool, and collected, I'm not sure it's the worst thing, but I think she is going to hopefully not take the bait. I think the Clinton advice is good advice to her. Don't take the bait. Try to bait him a little bit. That would be a win for her.
All right, Hogan and Jen, thank you very much, both veterans of the White House. Coming up, we've got Steve Kornacki here to break down where this race stands. Yeah. Spoiler alert, it's very, very tight, and how tonight's debate could shake.
Break it down, Naki. Now, appreciate everybody. Tonight is the night with the first black lady debates the biggest races in the world. Tonight is the night, baby. Put your gloves on. Get your gloves on. You know that. Hey, it's gonna be a long night tonight. Everybody grab that motherfucker. The goodest smoke you can find. Your drink. And sit back, you know what I'm saying? Because it's going to be a torture scene where she torched that ass. You know what I'm saying? Now, a couple things I want to touch on. They keep screaming, oh, she got to do this, she got to do that, she got to do this, she got to do that. No, she ain't got to do shit. But come in there and answer the fucking questions. And boo-boo the fool say anything outside the line, pound them on it ASAP. Simple. And when she started this thing off, she should let whoever the moderators are tell them fools, you know what? If you're not gonna check his lies, you can't stand here and just let him just flow. Let me check him. You know what I'm saying? If you not. Simple as that. You know what I'm saying?
Bernanke is with us tonight at the big board to break it all down. Where's this going?
Yeah, I mean, close. And
let's put this in some perspective here. What you're looking at is the average of all of the major national polls that are out there right now. This is a running average we keep. Harris at a 47-45 for Trump. 2-point lead there for Harris. Obviously, Democrats like that, but some context for that. First of all, there's this. Donald Trump has run from behind both previous times he ran for president. At this same point, 4 years ago in our poll average, Donald Trump was trailing Joe Biden by 7.8 points. And at the same point in 2016 in our poll average, Trump was trailing Hillary Clinton by 4.5 points. Now it's only 2. So yeah, Trump's behind, but this is closer than he's been in the polling in previous elections. And there's also this. Remember, in 2016, Trump lost the national popular vote to Clinton, won in the Electoral College. In 2020, Trump lost the popular vote by a wide margin to Joe Biden, almost won in the Electoral College. Is there going to be a gap like that again that works to Trump's favor, an Electoral College advantage? That's what you think about when you look at this. The 7 core battleground states, and again, poll average here, the average of the major polls in those states right now. And you see the headline, obviously, these are very close margins. Look, Harris, 1/10 of 1 point in the North Carolina average right now. Trump by 0.5 point in Georgia. These are very, very close, although you take a look and you see one here that's a little different. That's Wisconsin. Harris on average just over 4 points ahead right now. This was, keep in mind, Wisconsin, the source of the single biggest polling miss in 2020. It had Joe Biden well ahead, nearly 10 points on average. He won the state by less than 1 point. The polling here was way off in 2016 as well. There was a pretty big miss in Michigan, too. States with large blue-collar white populations where Trump has run up very big numbers. The polls didn't sufficiently capture that in 16 and 20. Is that going to be different in 2024? Or is there more Trump support in some of these states than it appears in the polls? That's a major question to think about as you see more numbers come out. And then you just see in this column right here, the electoral votes. Again, 7 core battleground states. Where's tonight's debate? It is in the state that is first among equals when it comes to battleground states. 19 electoral votes in Pennsylvania, more than any other. What does that mean functionally? If you're one of these campaigns and you lose Pennsylvania, mathematically, if you want to offset that, you got to win at least 2 others to make up for the 19 that you're losing out on in Pennsylvania. This is the king of the battleground states.
Steve, not to bring it back memories, but weren't we here until Saturday, the week of the election, waiting for Pennsylvania?
That's right, 11:30 Saturday morning. It's
Let's go.
But who's counting, right? Okay, well, we shall see. Thank you. That sets it up very nicely for our next guest. What do voters want to hear from candidates tonight? These battleground voters, they're the deciders. Kate Snow is in Pennsylvania talking to those undecided swing voters. Hi, Kate.
Hi, Savannah. Yeah, we're at the Churchville Inn. It's a restaurant in Bucks County, Pennsylvania. That's right outside of Philadelphia. This is a county that really could be pivotal in the state of Pennsylvania. And as Steve was just saying, it could be pivotal. Pennsylvania, as it goes, could be pivotal for the whole election. So we gathered 3 voters with me. They are all undecided voters. Each one of you is registered differently. We have Lynn Kelleher, who's a registered Republican and a realtor here in town. We have Hannah Reed.
Before that go even further, I have no respect for any fucking fool sitting here talking about they fucking undecided. Far as I'm concerned, motherfucker, you's acceptable and you like racism, you bitch. You like motherfuckers that disrespect women, you motherfucker. It has nothing to do, you don't care about it. So therefore you still thinking. You dumb bitches. Fuck out of here.
Please to explain. What are you looking for tonight?
For me, the election is a decision between economics and morals. I like some of Trump's economic policies.
Yeah.
I find him,
I
abhor him, quite frankly.
Because of his morals.
Because of his morals or lack thereof. But she, I think, is talking a lot of fluff. She hasn't said anything substantive.
What?
I don't know that she has the experience or the
Shut the fuck up, ho. You don't think
wherewithal to lead this country out of the economic situation that we're in.
We're not in no.
I'm going to note all 3 of you voted for Trump in 2016 and then changed in 2020. Hannah, let me go to you. You said you're very frustrated going into this debate. Why?
Because the election itself is no longer about policies. It's no longer about the real issues in this
What?
country, like the economics or the inflation.
You don't like the name calling.
The name
You
calling.
doing it,
I mean,
bitch?
the back and forth.
Fuck you.
It's about who
Fuck
can get
you.
one over on the other
Fuck.
to the point that we
Really?
are
Really?
not put.
Really? Really though? This bitch ass nigga call everybody. You gonna say they both doing it? Where the fuck you find that at? What are you talking about? Jackass. Fuck you. Your ass better not be bleeding out no fucking way in no alley so fucking way either, ho. Looking for abortions, bitch.
What you're going to do. So what do you need to hear tonight?
I feel left behind by the Democratic Party.
What the fuck?
Harris received 0 votes. I would have liked to have a say in the primary, and they didn't give me that. I feel that they think that they know what's best for me. Harris hasn't said anything. Harris's policies, a lot of them, have just been stolen from Trump. Taxes on tips, putting up the border wall. She's said absolutely nothing of her own with her own ideas.
All right,
so I'm waiting to see anything from her that is.
Bruh, these bitch ass niggas are Trumpsters. What the fuck is she, huh? Fuck is she questioning these fools for? Get the fuck out of here with these fake ass niggas talking about they independence. Fuck them. This bitch went around talking about, I don't know, they both talking about names. Ain't nobody calling nobody no names but your jackass. Fuck out of here. Retarded hoe.
W. Bush by playing John Kerry. And Senator, let me begin with you. You know, the candidates, of
We're
course,
sort of
want to
hitting
bring...
you with a tongue tire there.
Yes, it's not easy. The Harris folks really want to put forth her and introduce her to people who don't know a lot about her right now. Is this a good time for any candidate to change who they are, who the viewers and voters perceive them to be?
People can't change themselves. Really, these debates turn on a few things, I think. First is your mannerisms, and especially when you have a split screen. If you'll remember when George Bush the first was in the debate, he looked at his watch, and that affected the campaign significantly. And then Al Gore rolled his eyes and made all sorts of facial disparaging types of movements. And then, of course, in the last debate, it was President Biden just looking like he wasn't there. So the physical activity on the stage is really critical. And you've got to act like you're a serious person in a serious event. Secondly, you've got to be substantive. This is about the presidency of the United States. People expect substance. They don't expect gamesmanship. And third, a little self-deprecating humor doesn't work. That doesn't hurt. It's nice to know that the person can connect with you because they are willing to talk about themselves in a humorous way. And so those 3 elements are really critical to defining an individual and whether they connect with the audience. But you can't change yourself just for a debate. That's impossible.
Well, it's fun to talk to both of you because you've had this rare opportunity to actually play the opposing candidate. So we know you from politics, but apparently you have acting chops as well. Greg, as I turn to you, you helped President Obama and I think Senator Kerry as well. So if you were advising Kamala Harris, what would you tell her to do? Because obviously Donald Trump is an opponent unlike any other.
I agree with that. I think on the issue of substance and policy, she's just going to be fine. She's disciplined. She's hardworking. Her real challenge, I think, is managing Trump, because whereas Vice President Harris is the captain and quarterback of Team Normal, former President Trump is really the 4-star general of Team Crazy, and you can't really guess or predict exactly what he's going to be saying or doing. It's going to be a stream of consciousness. There's going to be non sequiturs. There's going to be one falsehood after another. So I'm going to be interested in finding out how she manages to deal with him. I think he's likely to get under her skin more than she's likely to get under his skin. And is she going to lose it? She would probably have every right to get angry or emotional or lecture him. But I think if she manages this guy in this debate, she'll be president of the United States.
Senator Craig and Greg Craig, good to have both of you with us.
Not easy, right?
Not easy at all, but nice to have your perspective. Speaking of an interesting perspective, there's only two people sitting at this desk right now who've actually moderated general election debates, which I would like to say seems like the most thankless job in America. But you both survived. We got Krista Welker here. Hallie's done some primary
I'm
debates.
out of my
Me
league.
too.
I
No,
know.
but this
Yeah, yeah.
this is next level. Lester, first of all, without triggering you, what do you remember about doing the debate in 2016?
I remember how lonely it felt because we were, when both of us did it, was under the auspices of the Presidential Debate Commission. You're a solo out there. You've got your back is to in this giant room full of people, and there were estimates of 100 million people watching. At the same time, it's such a privilege to do things like this, but you're getting people are, leading up to it, or is he going to fact check? Every time you turn on cable TV, they're talking about you and what they think you're going to do or what you're thinking. I don't know if Kristen felt the same thing, but I think of David and Lindsay tonight. It's not an easy task.
Oh, it's definitely not. And when you talk about feeling lonely, part of that is because there's no one in your ear telling you or giving you editorial backup. Look, I
There's a few things here that we got to touch on before this thing starts. I don't give a fuck about these people talking about they motherfucking independence, because they nowhere near no fucking independence. All right. They obviously motherfuckers that like Trump, voted for Trump, and don't want to vote for him no fucking more. And they line, keep coming on these panels talking about they undecided. And they gonna ask this bitch, oh, what you think? Oh, she gonna say, man, Kamala, she ain't even doing she ain't even putting out no Pacifics yet. What? She the only one to put out Pacifics. It just don't make no fucking sense, bro. And I don't think she ready. I don't think she qualified. Wait, what? That shit just sounds dumb. Vice President of the United States? Senator? But not like she sounded stupid, bro. That's why I don't like this independent bullshit. They not independent. It's not an independent on earth. They done. If you don't know that pig is a pig and a racist, and you voting for him, you like bigotry. You like racist motherfuckers. It's just real simple, bro.
I can still go back some. We'll bring it back some.
Refs here already preemptively going after the moderators. It's always a factor.
I was just going to say, I mean, it's not terribly recent, but I remember it's in the last 10, 15 years, it's become a lot more common to attack the moderator. I remember when you would never.
This bitch talking about it's common to attack the Trump. The only one do that. Attack the moderators, you bitch. Stop it.
Took me several minutes to feel the room, feel the temperature of the candidates. The other thing is, having done a lot of debates, including a presidential debate, I swore a long time ago I would never publicly judge a debate moderator.
That's right.
It is an incredibly difficult job, and my hat's off to anyone who has done it.
Absolutely. And you try to tune out any criticism that you might be getting heading into the big night.
But
rising stars, when anybody don't know, one of our rising black stars. You know what I'm saying? Meet the press.
Happy moments of feeling for them.
Thanks for all this. This was great. We'll take a break. We're less than 10 minutes away from the big moment as Kamala Harris and Donald Trump get ready to face off and meet for the first time ever. I hope you can stay with us. It's going to be quite a night.
Hope you can stay with us. Now, a few things that we got to touch on now. I keep telling y'all we got to touch on things, If this bitch ass orange demon gets disrespectful, I got to tell her to call him a hoe. Call him a rapist. Call him a racist. Call him a slimy pig. ASAP. Don't renege on those words even. You know what I'm saying? Now, don't act like those words don't exist. Now, another thing is they keep saying, if Trump just stay on the issues, if he say how good it was when he was president, why they keep letting them say that? That's another thing that throws me off. These commentators, whoever on this joint, let them motherfuckers say dumb shit like that. It blows me, bro. We talking about everybody was in the house. We losing businesses. We couldn't go get no toilet paper. Like, what the fuck world they living in? Acting like that was cute. This shit's ridiculous, bruh.
It's an alternate motherfucking universe. Good. John looking different. Down there, huh? Check.
Check. Yeah. Man, these people living in the ultimate motherfucking universe. That's the problem. And they want to put his shit out on her. But it ain't gonna fucking happen. That's what I say. Shit ain't gonna happen. What I think she should do, I just think she should be herself, handle her business, be what she is. You guys show the American people this evening who you are, what you are, that you ain't taking no shit off of him, you ain't taking no shit off of nobody else. He can come with all the dumb shit that he want to come with, but it ain't gonna work. You feel me? It ain't gonna work. That's what I say she need to do. If you call her name, then Doug should walk from behind the curtain and slap the shit out of him. That's what I say. Oh, she should slap the shit out of him.
News organizations and try to get their message out. There was a ton of commotion about 10 minutes ago, and that's because RFK Jr. came into the spin room. Of course, he was the third-party candidate who has since endorsed former President Trump. He was followed by, I'd say dozens of reporters as he walked through the spin room. We're hearing kind of the same things. Both campaigns are disciplined. They are on message. The Harris surrogates are saying the same thing. Former President Trump is the most experienced presidential debater. This will be a seventh debate. And also, they want to go over reproductive rights. That a vote for Trump is a vote that will limit abortion access. And then on the Trump side, of course, they're hammering the issue that Vice President Harris is untested. She's only done one big major interview. She's doing no town halls. And also they want to hammer home that they want to put the spotlight, and they hope the candidate does, on the issues of immigration, the economy, and the two wars overseas. What I'll be looking for, guys, tonight, who can truthfully answer the question that they are the change candidate coming out of this debate. Back to you.
All right, Tom, thanks very much. Our Washington correspondent, Yamiche Alcindor, has been covering the Harris campaign and joins us now. Yamiche, your thoughts tonight as we're just minutes away.
One of the biggest challenges for Vice President Harris, as I've been talking to a lot of sources that are familiar with her debate preparations, are how she's going to differentiate herself from President Biden. Former President Trump is going to try to make her own every single mistake that he believes President Biden made. And there's been a lot of tension among the Harris team about whether or not she should throw President Biden under the bus figuratively and say, I disagreed with some of the policies, maybe even the withdrawal from Afghanistan, the way that it was carried out, or whether she's going to say, I serve at the pleasure of the president and I agreed with everything that he did. But she has to, in some ways, really carve out what a Harris administration is going to look like and why it's not going to just be a third term of the Biden administration, or the second term of the Biden administration, rather. And the other thing that she's really going to have to do is not get pulled into personal attacks by former President Trump. They expect him to, at some point, maybe lose it. They're going to try to bait him a bit to try to lash out at her. But she really wants to remain calm, because her biggest thing that she wants to do is really introduce herself to undecided voters and voters who might not be familiar with her background, her middle-class background, that she's a child of immigrants. They really want her team really make sure that she defines herself. So that's also a big challenge that I'll be watching for, how she does that. Back to you.
All right, Yamiche, thank you so much. And let's turn now to NBC's Dasha Burns, who covers the Trump campaign and joins us now. What are you hearing from the Trump campaign about the preparations tonight?
Well, look, Savannah, you've heard the former president say time and again that he does not do traditional debate prep, that campaigning is his prep. But we are told by sources that over the last few days, he has been hunkered down at Mar-a-Lago. He's been doing extensive policy sessions, and watch for him to do two things tonight, two things that his campaign wants him to do. Number one, tie Vice President Harris to President Biden, make her own what's going on with the economy, what's going on with immigration. And number two, remind voters some of the positions she took back in 2020 when she was running for president that were left of center. Try to paint her as simply too liberal for those moderate target swing voters in places like the suburbs of Philadelphia. Of course, that is the plan. That is what the campaign wants, but it's all going to be about the execution in the moment, especially if Harris tries to bait the former president into an outburst. Savannah.
All right, Dasha, thank you.
Let's bring back Kristen Welker and Hallie Jackson. I want to talk about how the vice president has cast herself in this campaign as the prosecutor, going against Donald Trump. Are there limits to that in this format, do you think, of coming off in a prosecutorial way?
Absolutely. When I've spoken to allies who are close to her, they say her biggest challenge tonight is getting specific, but not too specific. She's got to tell the story of how a Harris administration would differ from a Biden administration. That word we keep using, change. How would she change things right now? Does she acknowledge to some extent that the economy is not where she wants it to be, and really lay out in more detail what she wants to see? Yes, she's going to prosecute the case against Donald Trump on a range of different issues. She'll accuse him of switching his opinion, particularly when it comes to the issue of abortion and reproductive rights. But again, she's got to walk that fine line.
Yeah, but she also has to answer for some changes in her own positions. Of course, she ran for president in 2020. She came across and positioned herself as a much more progressive type of candidate. Now she's really moving to the middle here in a general election.
Crowded primary, right? Back in 2019, 2020, she has moved away from that on issues like, for example, mandated gun buybacks for automatic rifles, something that she no longer supports. Fracking, for example, something that she has changed her position on as well. You look at Medicare for all, a position that she's backed away from. Watch for the former president to try to go after some of these issues. And I'll tell you, to bring it back to the voters, that panel with Kate Snow is super interesting. The economy came up again and again. And even though this summer, for the first time, inflation dipped below 3% for the first time since March of 2021, people don't feel great about it right now. So how does Vice President Harris address that moving forward?
And let me briefly go there and talk about his physical performance. It's been noted by many that the former president has tended to be more rambling, disjointed in many of his answers at a time that we were focusing on Joe Biden. Is that something that folks will be watching carefully?
He's now, of course, the older candidate now.
Okay, we will be back with you. It's the top of the hour now. 9 o'clock on the East Coast here in New York and in Philadelphia, the room where it's about to happen. We're just seconds away now from tonight's first and perhaps last presidential debate between Vice President Kamala Harris and former President Donald Trump.
As we've noted, this will be the first time these candidates have met in person, and it's happening on a debate stage. Also, the first debate since President Biden left the race over the summer and Harris became the Democratic nominee. A lot has happened in a very compressed period of time.
Yes, it has. And we have a few moments until the debate starts. We will join it. ABC News is broadcasting it, but we will simulcast it right here in its entirety. It's taking place at the National Constitution Center in Philadelphia.
And like June's debate, there will be no audience tonight. The candidates' microphones will be muted while the other one is talking. Each candidate will get 2 minutes for answers. There will be closing statements, but no opening statements. So we expect them to probably mix it up rather early in this as they stake out their positions and we get a sense of where all this is going.
And the mics are muted when the other is talking. So let's take you to Philadelphia now and the first presidential debate of 2024.
Good evening. I'm David Muir, and thank you for joining us for tonight's ABC News presidential debate. We want to welcome viewers watching on ABC and around the world tonight. Vice President Kamala Harris and President Donald Trump are just moments away from taking the stage in this unprecedented race for president.
And I'm Lindsay Davis. Tonight's meeting could be the most consequential event of their campaigns, with Election Day now less than 2 months away. For Vice President Kamala Harris, this is her first debate since President Biden withdrew from the race on July 21st. Of course, that decision followed his debate against President Donald Trump in June. Since then, this race has taken on an entirely new dynamic.
And that brings us to the rules of tonight's debate. 90 minutes with 2 commercial breaks. No topics or questions have been shared with the campaigns. The candidates will have 2 minutes to answer questions, and this is the clock. That's what they'll be seeing. 2 minutes for rebuttals and 1 minute for follow-ups, clarifications, or responses. Their microphones will only be turned on when it's their turn to speak. No pre-written notes allowed. There is no audience here tonight in this hall at the National Constitution Center. This is an intimate setting for 2 candidates who have never met.
President Trump won the coin toss. He chose to deliver the final closing statement of the evening. Vice President Harris selected the podium to the right.
So let's now welcome the candidates to the stage. Vice President Kamala Harris and President Donald Trump.
Kamala Harris. Let's have a good debate. Thank you.
Welcome to you both. It's wonderful to have you. It's an honor to have you both here tonight.
Good evening. We are looking forward to a spirited and thoughtful debate.
So let's get started. I want to begin tonight with the issue that voters repeatedly say is their #1 issue, and that is the economy and the cost of living in this country. Vice President Harris, you and President Trump were elected 4 years ago, and your opponent on the stage here tonight often asks his supporters, are you better off than you were 4 years ago? When it comes to the economy, do you believe Americans are better off than they were 4 years ago?
So I was raised as a middle-class kid, and I am actually the only person on this stage who has a plan that is about lifting up the middle class and working people of America. I believe in the ambition, the aspirations, the dreams of the American people. And that is why I imagine and have actually a plan to build what I call an opportunity economy. Because here's the thing. We know that we have a shortage of homes and housing, and the cost of housing is too expensive for far too many people. We know that young families need support to raise their children, and I intend on extending a tax cut for those families of $6,000, which is the largest child tax credit that we have given in a long time, so that those young families can afford to buy a crib, buy a car seat, buy clothes for their children. My passion, one of them, is small businesses. My mother raised my sister and me, but there was a woman who helped raise us. We call her our second mother. She was a small business owner. I love our small businesses. My plan is to give a $50,000 tax deduction to start up small businesses, knowing they are part of the backbone of America's economy. My opponent, on the other hand, his plan is to do what he has done before, which is to provide a tax cut for billionaires and big corporations, which will result in $5 trillion to America's deficit. My opponent has a plan that I call the Trump's sales tax, which would be a 20% tax on everyday goods that you rely on to get through the month. Economists have said that Trump sales tax would actually result for middle-class families in about $4,000 more a year, because of his policies and his ideas about what should be the backs of middle-class people paying for tax cuts for billionaires.
President Trump, I'll give you 2 minutes.
First of all, I have no sales tax. That's an incorrect statement. She knows that. We're doing tariffs on other countries. Other countries are going to finally, after 75 years, pay us back for all that we've done for the world. And the tariff will be substantial in some cases. I took in billions and billions of dollars, as you know, from China. In fact, they never took the tariff off because there was so much money they can't. It would totally destroy everything that they've set out to do. They're taking in billions of dollars from China and other places. They've left the tariffs on. When I had it, I had tariffs, and yet I had no inflation. Look, we've had a terrible economy because inflation which is really known as a country buster. It breaks up countries. We have inflation like very few people have ever seen before, probably the worst in our nation's history. We were at 21%, but that's being generous because many things are 50, 60, 70, and 80% higher than they were just a few years ago. This has been a disaster for people, for the middle class, but for every class. On top of that, we have millions of people pouring into our country from prisons and jails, from mental institutions and insane asylums, and they're coming in and they're taking jobs that are occupied right now by African Americans and Hispanics, and also unions. Unions are going to be affected very soon. And you see what's happening. You see what's happening with towns throughout the United States. You look at Springfield, Ohio. You look at Aurora in Colorado. They are taking over the towns. They're taking over buildings. They're going in violently. These are the people that she and Biden led into our country, and they're destroying our country. They're dangerous. They're at the highest level of criminality, and we have to get them out. We have to get them out fast. I created one of the greatest economies in the history of our country. I'll do it again and even better.
We are going to get to immigration and border security during this debate, but I would like to let Vice President Harris respond on the economy here.
Well, I would love to. Let's talk about what Donald Trump left us. Donald Trump left us the worst unemployment since the Great Depression. Donald Trump left us the worst public health epidemic in a century. Donald Trump left us the worst attack on our democracy since the Civil War. And what we have done is clean up Donald Trump's mess What we have done and what I intend to do is build on what we know are the aspirations and the hopes of the American people. But I'm going to tell you all in this debate tonight, you're going to hear from the same old tired playbook, a bunch of lies, grievances, and name calling. What you're going to hear tonight is a detailed and dangerous plan called Project 2025 that the former president intends on implementing if he were elected again. I believe very strongly that the American people want a president who understands the importance of bringing us together, knowing we have so much more in common than what separates us. And I pledge to you to be a president for all Americans.
President Trump will give you a minute here to respond.
Number one, I have nothing to do, as you know, and as she knows better than anyone, I have nothing to do with Project 2025. That's out there. I haven't read it. I don't want to read it purposely. I'm not going to read it. This was a group of people that got together. They came up with some ideas, I guess some good, some bad, but it makes no difference. I have nothing to do. Everybody knows I'm an open book. Everybody knows what I'm going to do. Cut taxes very substantially and create a great economy like I did before. We had the greatest economy. We got hit with a pandemic, and the pandemic was not since 1917, where 100 million people died, has there been anything like it. We did a phenomenal job with the pandemic. We handed them over a country where the economy and where the stock market was higher than it was before the pandemic came in. Nobody's ever seen anything like it. We made ventilators for the entire world. We got gowns, we got masks, we did things that nobody thought possible. And people give me credit for rebuilding the military. They give me credit for a lot of things, but not enough credit for the great job we did with the pandemic. But the only jobs they got were bounce back jobs. These were jobs bounce back, and it bounced back and it went to their benefit. But I was the one that created them. They know it, and so does everybody else.
Vice President Harris, I'll let you respond.
So Donald Trump has no plan for you. And when you look at his economic plan, it's all about tax breaks for the richest people. I am offering what I describe as an opportunity economy, and the best economists in our country, if not the world, have reviewed our relative plans for the future of America. What Goldman Sachs has said is that Donald Trump's plan would make the economy worse. Mine would strengthen the economy. What the Wharton School has said is Donald Trump's plan would actually explode the deficit. 16 Nobel laureates have described his economic plan as something that would increase inflation and by the middle of next year would invite a recession. You just have to look at where we are and where we stand on the issues. And I'd invite you to know that Donald Trump actually has no plan for you because he is more interested in defending himself than he is in looking out for you.
It's just a soundbite. They gave her that to say. Look, I went to the Wharton School of Finance, and many of those professors, the top professors, think my plan is a brilliant plan. It's a great plan. It's a plan that's going to bring up our worth, our value as a country. It's going to make people want to be able to go and work and create jobs and create a lot of good, solid money for our country. Just to finish off, she doesn't have a plan. She copied Biden's plan, and it's like 4 sentences, like run, spot, run. 4 sentences that are just, oh, we'll try and lower taxes. She doesn't have a plan. Take a look at her plan. She doesn't have a plan.
Mr. President, I do want to drill down on something you both brought up. The Vice President brought up your tariffs. You responded, and let's drill down on this because your plan is what she calls is essentially a national sales tax. Your proposal calls for tariffs, as you pointed out here, on foreign imports across the board. You recently said that you might double your plan, imposing tariffs up to 20% on goods coming into this country. As you know, many economists say that with tariffs at that level, costs are then passed on to the consumer. Vice President Harris has argued it'll mean higher prices on gas, food, clothing, medication, arguing it costs the typical family nearly $4,000 a year. Do you believe Americans can afford higher prices because of tariffs?
They're not going to have higher prices. What's going to have and who's going to have higher prices is China and all of the countries that have been ripping us off for years. I was the only president ever. China was paying us hundreds of billions of dollars, and so were other countries. And, you know, if she doesn't like them, they should have gone out and they should have immediately cut the tariffs. But those tariffs are there 3.5 years now under their administration. We are going to take in billions of dollars, hundreds of billions of dollars. I had no inflation, virtually no inflation. They had the highest inflation perhaps in the history of our country, because I've never seen a worse period of time. People can't go out and buy cereal or bacon or eggs or anything else. The people of our country are absolutely dying with what they've done. They've destroyed the economy. And all you have to do is look at a poll. The polls say 80 and 85 and even 90% that the Trump economy was great, that their economy was terrible.
Vice President Harris, I do want to ask for your response. And you heard what the president said there, because the Biden administration did keep a number of the Trump tariffs in place. So how do you respond?
Well, let's be clear that the Trump administration resulted in a trade deficit, one of the highest we've ever seen in the history of America. He invited trade wars. You want to talk about his deal with China? What he ended up doing is, under Donald Trump's presidency, he ended up selling American chips to China to help them improve and modernize their military, basically sold us out, when a policy about China should be in making sure the United States of America wins the competition for the 21st century, which means focusing on the details of what that requires, focusing on relationships with our allies, focusing on investing in American-based technology so that we win the race on AI, on quantum computing, focusing on what we need to do to support America's workforce so that we don't end up having on the short end of the stick in terms of workers' rights. But what Donald Trump did, let's talk about this, with COVID, is he actually thanked President Xi for what he did during COVID. Look at his tweet. Thank you, President Xi, exclamation point, when we know that Xi was responsible for lacking and not giving us transparency about the origins of COVID.
President Trump, I'll let you respond.
First of all, they bought their chips from Taiwan. We hardly make chips anymore because of philosophies like they have and policies like they have. I don't say her because she has no policy. Everything that she believed 3 years ago and 4 years ago is out the window. She's going to my philosophy now. In fact, I was going to send her a MAGA hat. She's gone to my philosophy. But if she ever got elected, she'd change it. And it will be the end of our country. She's a Marxist. Everybody knows she's a Marxist. Her father's a Marxist professor in economics, and he taught her well. But when you look at what she's done to our country, and when you look at these millions and millions of people that are pouring into our country monthly, where it's, I believe, 21 million people, not the 15 that people say, and I think it's a lot higher than the 21. That's bigger than New York State pouring in. And just look at what they're doing to our country. They're criminals. Many of these people coming in are criminals. And that's bad for our economy, too. You know, you mentioned before, we'll talk about immigration later. Well, bad immigration is the worst thing that can happen to our economy. They have, and she has, destroyed our country with policy that's insane. Almost policy that you'd say they have to hate our country.
President Trump, thank you. Lindsay?
I want to turn to the issue of abortion. President Trump, you've often touted that you were able to kill Roe v. Wade. Last year, you said that you were proud to be the most pro-life president in American history. Then last month, you said that your administration would be great for women and their reproductive rights. In your home state of Florida, you surprised many with regard to your 6-week abortion ban, because you initially had said that it was too short. And you said, quote, I'm going to be voting that we need more than 6 weeks. But then the very next day, you reversed course and said you would vote to support the 6-week ban. Vice President Harris says that women shouldn't trust you on the issue of abortion because you've changed your position so many times. Therefore, why should they trust you?
Well, the reason I'm doing that vote is because the plan is, as you know, the vote is, they have abortion in the 9th month. They even have, and you can look at the governor of West Virginia, the previous governor of West Virginia, not the current governor, who's doing an excellent job, but the governor before, he said the baby will be born and we will decide what to do with the baby. In other words, we'll execute the baby. And that's why I did that, because that predominates, because they're radical. The Democrats are radical in that. And her vice presidential pick, which I think was a horrible pick, by the way, for our country, because he is really out of it. But her vice presidential pick says abortion in the 9th month is absolutely fine. He also says execution after birth. It's execution, no longer abortion, because the baby is born, is okay. And that's not okay with me, hence the vote. But what I did is something for 52 years. They've been trying to get Roe v. Wade into the states. And through the genius and heart and strength of 6 Supreme Court justices, we were able to do that. Now, I believe in the exceptions for rape, incest, and life of the mother. I believe strongly in it. Ronald Reagan did also. 85% of Republicans do. Exceptions, very important. But we were able to get it, and now states are voting on it. And for the first time, you're going to see, look, this is an issue that's torn our country apart for 52 years. Every legal scholar, every Democrat, every Republican, liberal, conservative, they all wanted this issue to be brought back to the states where the people could vote. And that's what happened. Now, Ohio, the vote was somewhat liberal. Kansas, the vote was somewhat liberal, much more liberal than people would have thought. But each individual state is voting. It's the vote of the people now. It's not tied up in the federal government. I did a great service in doing it. It took courage to do it. And the Supreme Court had great courage in doing it. And I give tremendous credit to those 6 justices.
There is no state in this country where it is legal to kill a baby after it's born. Madam Vice President, I want to get your response to President.
Thank you. You're going to hear a bunch of lies, and that's not actually a surprising fact. Let's understand how we got here. Donald Trump hand-selected 3 members of the United States Supreme Court with the intention that they would undo the protections of Roe v. Wade. And they did exactly as he intended. And now in over 20 states, there are Trump abortion bans, which make it criminal for a doctor or nurse to provide health care. In one state, it provides prison for life. Trump abortion bans that make no exception even for rape and incest, which understand what that means. A survivor of a crime, a violation to their body, does not have the right to make a decision about what happens to their body next. That is immoral. And one does not have to abandon their faith or deeply held beliefs to agree. The government, and Donald Trump certainly, should not be telling a woman what to do with her body. I have talked with women around our country. You want to talk about this is what people wanted? Pregnant women who want to carry a pregnancy to term, suffering from a miscarriage, being denied care in an emergency room because the healthcare providers are afraid they might go to jail, and she's bleeding out in a car in the parking lot. She didn't want that. Her husband didn't want that. A 12 or 13-year-old survivor of incest being forced to carry a pregnancy to term. They don't want that. And I pledge to you, when Congress passes a bill to put back in place the protections of Roe v. Wade, as President of the United States, I will proudly sign it into law. But understand, if Donald Trump were to be reelected, he will sign a national abortion ban. Understand, in his Project 2025, there would be a national abortion, a monitor that would be monitoring your pregnancies, your miscarriages. I think the American people believe that certain freedoms, in particular the freedom to make decisions about one's own body, should not be made by the government.
Thank you, Vice President Harris.
Well, there she goes again. It's a lie. I'm not signing a ban, and there's no reason to sign a ban because we've gotten what everybody wanted. Democrats, Republicans, and everybody else, and every legal scholar wanted it to be brought back into the states, and the states are voting. And it may take a little time, but for 52 years, this issue has torn our country apart, and they've wanted it back in the states. And I did something that nobody thought was possible. The states are now voting. What she says is an absolute lie. And as far as the abortion ban, no, I'm not in favor of abortion ban, but it doesn't matter because this issue has now been taken over by the states.
Would you veto a national abortion ban if it came to
Well, I
your
won't
desk?
have to because, again,
Would you
two
veto
things.
it?
Number one, she said she'll go back to Congress.
Well,
She'll never
hold
get
on.
the vote.
Would
It's
you
impossible for her to get the vote, especially now with the 50-50 essentially 50-50 in both Senate and the House. She's not going to get the vote. She can't get the vote. She won't even come close to it. So it's just talk. You know what it reminds me of? When they said they're going to get student loans terminated, and it ended up being a total catastrophe. The student loans, and then I think probably her boss, if you call him a boss, he spends all his time on the beach. But look, her boss went out and said, we'll do it again. We'll do it a different way. And he went out, got rejected again by the Supreme Court. So all these students got taunted with this whole thing about this whole idea. And how unfair that would have been, part of the reason they lost, to the millions and millions of people that had to pay off their student loans. They didn't get it for free. But they were saying it's the same way that they talked about that they talk about abortion.
But if I could just get a yes or no, because your running mate, J.D. Vance, has said that you would veto if it did come to your desk.
Well, I didn't discuss it with J.D. In all fairness, J.D., and I don't mind if he has a certain view, but I think he was speaking for me, but I really didn't. Look, we don't have to discuss it because she'd never be able to get it, just like she couldn't get student loans. They couldn't get student loans. They didn't even come close to getting student loans. They taunted young people and a lot of other people that had loans. They can never get this approved. So it doesn't matter what she says about going to Congress. Well, wonderful. Let's go to Congress. Do it. But the fact is that for years, they wanted to get it out of Congress and out of the federal government. And we did something that everybody said couldn't be done. And now you have a vote of the people on abortion.
Vice President Harris, I want to give you your time to respond, but I do want to ask, would you support any restrictions on a woman's right to an abortion?
I absolutely support reinstating the protections of Roe v. Wade. And as you rightly mentioned, nowhere in America is a woman carrying a pregnancy to term and asking for an abortion. That is not happening. It's insulting to the women of America. And understand what has been happening under Donald Trump's abortion bans. Couples who pray and dream of having a family are being denied IVF treatments. What is happening in our country? Working people, working women who are working 1 or 2 jobs, who can barely afford childcare as it is, have to travel to another state to get on a plane sitting next to strangers to go and get the health care she needs. Barely can afford to do it, and what you are putting her through is unconscionable. And the people of America have not, the majority of Americans believe in a woman's right to make decisions about her own body. And that is why in every state where this issue has been on the ballot, in red and blue states both, the people of America have voted for freedom.
Vice President Harris,
excuse me, I have to respond. Another lie. It's another lie. I have been a leader on IVF, which is fertilization. The IVF, I have been a leader. In fact, when they got a very negative decision on IVF from the Alabama courts, I saw the people of Alabama and the legislature 2 days later voted it in. I've been a leader on it. They know that, and everybody else knows it. I have been a leader on fertilization, IVF. And the other thing, you should ask, will she allow abortion in the 8th month, 9th month, 7th month?
Come on.
Okay, would you do that? Why don't you ask her that question?
Why don't you answer the question? Would you
because
veto?
Under Roe v.
Answer
Wade,
the question. Would you veto?
You could do abortions in the 7th month, the 8th month, the 9th month,
not true.
and probably after birth. Just look at the governor, former governor of Virginia. The governor of Virginia said we put the baby aside and then we determine what we want to do with the baby.
President Trump, thank you.
We're going to turn now to immigration and border security. We know it's an issue that's important to Republicans, Democrats, voters across the board in this country. Vice President Harris, you were tasked by President Biden with getting to the root causes of migration from Central America. We know that illegal border crossings reached a record high in the Biden administration. This past June, President Biden imposed tough new asylum restrictions. We know the numbers since then have dropped significantly. But my question to you tonight is, why did the administration wait until 6 months before the election to act? And would you have done anything differently from President Biden on this?
So I'm the only person on this stage who has prosecuted transnational criminal organizations for the trafficking of guns, drugs, and human beings. And let me say that the United States Congress, including some of the most conservative members of the United States Senate, came up with a border security bill, which I supported. And that bill would have put 1,500 more border agents on the border to help those folks who are working there right now overtime, trying to do their job. It would have allowed us to stem the flow of fentanyl coming into the United States. I know there are so many families watching tonight who have been personally affected by the surge of fentanyl in our country. That bill would have put more resources to allow us to prosecute transnational criminal organizations for trafficking in guns, drugs, and human beings. But you know what happened to that bill? Donald Trump got on the phone, called up some folks in Congress and said, kill the bill. And you know why? Because he'd prefer to run on a problem instead of fixing a problem. And understand, this comes at a time where the people of our country actually need a leader who engages in solutions, who actually addresses the problems at hand. But what we have in the former president is someone who would prefer to run on a problem instead of fixing a problem. And I'll tell you something, he's going to talk about immigration a lot tonight, even when it's not the subject that is being raised. And I'm going to actually do something really unusual, and I'm going to invite you to attend one of Donald Trump's rallies, because it's a really interesting thing to watch. You will see during the course of his rallies, he talks about fictional characters like Hannibal Lecter. He will talk about windmills cause cancer. And what you will also notice is that people start leaving his rallies early out of exhaustion and boredom. And I will tell you, the one thing you will not hear him talk about is you. You will not hear him talk about your needs, your dreams, and your desires. And I'll tell you, I believe you deserve a president who actually puts you first, and I pledge to you that I will.
Vice President Harris, thank you. President Trump, on that point, I want to get your response.
Well, I would like to respond.
Let me just ask, though, why did you try to kill that bill, and successfully so? That would have put thousands of additional agents and officers on the border.
First, let me respond as to the rallies.
Wait.
She said people start leaving. People don't go to her rallies. There's no reason to go. And the people that do go, she's bussing them in and paying them to be there, and then showing them in a different light. So she can't talk about that. People don't leave my rallies. We have the biggest rallies, the most incredible rallies in the history of politics. That's because people want to take their country back. Our country is being lost. We're a failing nation. And it happened 3.5 years ago. And what's going on here, you're going to end up in World War III, just to go into another subject. What they have done to our country by allowing these millions and millions of people to come into our country, and look at what's happening to the towns all over the United States. And a lot of towns don't want to talk. It's not going to be Aurora or Springfield. A lot of towns don't want to talk about it because they're so embarrassed by it. In Springfield, they're eating the dogs, the people that came in. They're eating the cats. They're eating the pets of the people that live there. And this is what's happening in our country. And it's a shame. As far as rallies are concerned, as far as the reason they go is they like what I say. They want to bring our country back. They want to make America great again. It's a very simple phrase, make America great again. She's destroying this country. And if she becomes president, this country doesn't have a chance of success. Not only success, we'll end up being Venezuela on steroids.
Don't let him get away with it.
I just want to clarify here. You bring up Springfield, Ohio, and ABC News did reach out to the city manager there. He told us there have been no credible reports of specific claims of rights being harmed, injured, or abused by individuals within the immigrant community. Let me just say here, this is
the people on television say my dog was taken and used for food. So maybe he said that, and maybe that's a good thing to say for a city manager.
I'm not taking this from
but
television.
But the people
I'm
on
taking it from
television
the city
saying their
manager.
dog was eaten by the people that went there.
Again, the Springfield city manager says there's no evidence of that. Vice President Harris, I'll let you respond to the rest of what you've heard.
You talk about extreme. This is, I think, one of the reasons why in this election, I actually have the endorsement of 200 Republicans who have formerly worked with President Bush, Mitt Romney, and John McCain, including the endorsement of former Vice President Dick Cheney and Congress member Liz Cheney. And if you want to really know the inside track on who the former president is, if he didn't make it clear already, just ask people who have worked with him. His former chief of staff, a 4-star general, has said he has contempt for the Constitution of the United States.
Right.
His former national security advisor has said he is dangerous and unfit. His former Secretary of Defense has said the nation, the republic, would never survive another Trump term. And when we listen to this kind of rhetoric, when the issues that affect the American people are not being addressed, I think the choice is clear in this election.
President Trump, I'll give you a quick minute to respond here.
Thank you, because when I hear that, see, I'm a different kind of a person. I fired most of those people, not so graciously. They did bad things or a bad job. I fired them. They never fired one person. They didn't fire anybody having to do with Afghanistan and the top. And you take a guy like Esper, he was no good, I fired him, so he writes a book. Another one writes a book, because with me they can write books, with nobody else can they? But they have done such a poor job, and they never fire anybody. Look at the economy, look at the inflation. They didn't fire any of their economists, they have the same people. That's a good way not to have books written about you. But just to finish, I got more votes than any Republican in history by far. In fact, I got more votes than any president, sitting president in history by far.
Let me continue on immigration. It was what you wanted to talk about earlier, so let's get back to your deportation proposal that the vice president has reacted to as well. President Trump, you call this the largest domestic deportation operation in the history of our country. You say you would use the National Guard. You say if things get out of control, you'd have no problem using the U.S. military.
Police, yes.
You also said you would use local police. How would you deport 11 million undocumented immigrants? I know you believe that number is much higher. Take us through this. What does this look like? Will authorities be going door to door in this country?
Yeah, it is much higher because of them. They allowed criminals, many millions of criminals. They allowed terrorists. They allowed common street criminals. They allowed people to come in, drug dealers, to come into our country. And they're now in the United States and told by their countries like Venezuela, don't ever come back or we're going to kill you. Do you know that crime in Venezuela and crime in countries all over the world is way down? You know why? Because they've taken their criminals off the street and they've given them to her to put into our country. And this will be one of the greatest mistakes in history for them to allow. And I think they probably did it because they think they're going to get votes, but it's not worth it because they're destroying the fabric of our country by what they've done. There's never been anything done like this at all. They've destroyed the fabric of our country. Millions of people let in, and all over the world, crime is down all over the world except here. Crime here is up and through the roof. Despite their fraudulent statements that they made, crime in this country is through the roof. And we have a new form of crime. It's called migrant crime. And it's happening at levels that nobody thought possible.
President Trump, as you know, the FBI says overall violent crime is actually coming down in this country. But
excuse me, the FBI they were defrauding statements. They didn't include the worst cities. They didn't include the cities with the worst crime. It was a fraud, just like their number of 818,000 jobs that they said they created turned out to be a fraud.
President Trump, thank you. I'll let you respond, Vice President Harris.
And let's be clear where each person stands on the issue of what is important about respect for the rule of law and respect for law enforcement. The former vice president called for defunding federal law enforcement, 45,000 agents, get this, on the day after he was arraigned on 34 felony counts. So let's talk about what is important in this race. It is important that we move forward, that we turn the page on this same old tired rhetoric and address the needs of the American people, address what we need to do about the housing shortage, which I have a plan for, address what we must do to support our small businesses, address bringing down the price of groceries. But frankly, the American people are exhausted with this same old tired playbook.
Vice President Harris, thank you.
Excuse me. Every one of those cases was started by them against their political opponent. And I'm winning most of them, and I will win the rest on appeal. And you saw that with the decision that came down just recently from the Supreme Court. I'm winning most of them. But those are cases, it's called weaponization. Never happened in this country. They weaponized the Justice Department. Every one of those cases was involved with the DOJ, from Atlanta and Fani Willis to the Attorney General of New York and the DA in New York, every one of those cases. And then they say, oh, he's a criminal. They're the ones that made them go after me. By the way, Joe Biden was found essentially guilty on the documents case. And what happened in my documents case? They said, oh, that's the toughest of them all. A complete and total victory. 2 months ago, it was thrown out. It's weaponization, and they used it, and it's never happened in this country. They used it to try and win an election. They're fake cases.
President Trump, thank you. A really quick response here, Vice President Harris, on this notion of weaponization of the Justice Department.
Well, let's talk about extreme and understand the context in which this election in 2024 is taking place. The United States Supreme Court recently ruled that the former president would essentially be immune from any misconduct if he were to enter the White House again. Understand, this is because certainly we know now the court won't stop him. We know J.D. Vance is not going to stop him. It's up to the American people
Vice President
stop
Harris,
him.
Thank you. Lindsay?
Vice President Harris, in your last run for president.
This is the one that weaponized, not me. She weaponized. I probably took a bullet to the head because of the things that they say about me. They talk about democracy. I'm a threat to democracy. They're the threat to democracy with a fake Russia investigation that went nowhere.
We have a lot to get to. Lindsay?
Vice President Harris, in your last run for president, you said you wanted to ban fracking. Now you don't. You wanted mandatory government buyback programs for assault weapons. Now your campaign says you don't. You supported decriminalizing border crossings. Now you're taking a harder line. I know you say that your values have not changed. So then why have so many of your policy positions changed?
So my values have not changed, and I'm going to discuss every one of at least every point that you've made. But in particular, let's talk about fracking because we're here in Pennsylvania. I made that very clear in 2020. I will not ban fracking. I have not banned fracking as Vice President of the United States. And in fact, I was the tie-breaking vote on the Inflation Reduction Act, which opened new leases for fracking. My position is that we have got to invest in diverse sources of energy so we reduce our reliance on foreign oil. We have had the largest increase in domestic oil production in history because of an approach that recognizes that we cannot over-rely on foreign oil. As it relates to my values, let me tell you, I grew up a middle-class kid raised by a hardworking mother who worked and saved and was able to buy our first home when I was a teenager. The values I bring to the importance of home ownership, knowing not everybody got handed $400 million on a silver platter and then filed bankruptcy 6 times, is a value that I bring to my work to say we are going to work with the private sector and home builders to increase 3 million homes, increase by 3 million homes by the end of my first term. My work that is related to having a friend when I was in high school who was sexually assaulted by her stepfather. And my focus then on protecting women and children from violent crime is based on a value that is deeply grounded in the importance of standing up for those who are most vulnerable. My work that is about protecting Social Security and Medicare is based on long-standing work that I have done. Protecting seniors from have not changed. And what is important is that there is a president who actually brings values and a perspective that is about lifting people up and not beating people down and name calling. The true measure of the leader is the leader who actually understands the strength is not in beating people down, it's in lifting people up. I intend to be that president.
President Trump, your
Well,
response?
first of all, I wasn't given $400 million. I wish I was. My father was a Brooklyn builder, Brooklyn, Queens, and a great father, and I learned a lot from him. But I was given a fraction of that, a tiny fraction, and I built it into many, many billions of dollars, many, many billions. And when people see it, they are even surprised. So we don't have to talk about that. Fracking, she's been against it for 12 years. Defund the police, she's been against that forever. She gave all that stuff up very wrongly, very horribly, and everybody's laughing at it, okay? They're all laughing at it. She gave up at least 12 and probably 14 or 15 different policies. Like, she was big on defund the police. In Minnesota, she went out, wait a minute, I'm talking now, if you don't mind, please. Does that sound familiar? She went out in Minnesota and wanted to let criminals that killed people, that burned down Minneapolis, she went out and raised money to get them out of jail. She did things that nobody would ever think of. Now she wants to do transgender operations on illegal aliens that are in prison. This is a radical left liberal that would do this. She wants to confiscate your guns, and she will never allow fracking in Pennsylvania. If she won the election, fracking in Pennsylvania will end on day one. Just to finish one thing, so important in my opinion. So I got the oil business going like nobody has ever done before. When they took over, they got rid of it, started getting rid of it, and the prices were going up the roof. They immediately let these guys go to where they were. I would have been 5 times, 4 times, 5 times higher, because you're talking about 3.5 years ago. They got it up to where I was because they had no choice, because the prices of energy were quadrupling and doubling. You saw what happened to gasoline. So they said, let's go back to Trump. But if she won the election, the day after that election, they'll go back to destroying our country, and oil will be dead, fossil fuel will be dead. We'll go back to windmills, and we'll go back to solar, where they need a whole desert to get some energy to come out of it. You ever see a solar plant? By the way, I'm a big fan of solar, but they take 400, 500 acres of desert
President
soil.
Trump, we have a
These
lot
are
of
not good
issues
things
that
for
we
the
have to get
environment,
to.
as
We're
she
out of time.
understands.
Thank you.
Lindsay, thank you. We have an election in just 56 days. And I want to talk about the peaceful transfer of power, which, of course, we all know is a cornerstone of our democracy, and the role of a president in a moment of crisis. Mr. President, on January 6th, you told your supporters to march to the Capitol. You said you would be right there with them. The country and the world saw what played out at the Capitol that day, the officers coming under attack. Aides in the West Wing say you watched it unfold on television off the Oval Office. You did send out tweets, but it was more than 2 hours before you sent out that video message telling your supporters to go home. Is there anything you regret about what you did on that day?
You just said a thing
Kamala
that
Harris.
isn't covered. Peacefully and patriotically, I said
Oh,
during my
okay.
speech,
Donald
not
Trump's
later on. Peacefully and patriotically. And nobody on the other side was killed. Ashley Babbitt was shot by an out-of-control police officer that should have never, ever shot her. It's a disgrace. But we didn't do this group of people that have been treated so badly. I ask, what about all the people that are pouring into our country and killing people that she allowed to pour in? She was the border czar. Remember that. She was the border czar. She doesn't want to be called the border czar because she's embarrassed by the border. In fact, she said at the beginning, well, I'm surprised you're not talking about the border yet. That's because she knows what a bad job they've done. What about those people? When are they going to be prosecuted? When are these people from countries all over the world, not just South America? They're coming in from all over the world, David, all over the world. And crime rates are down all over the world because of it.
But let me just
when are those, David, when are those people going to be prosecuted? When are the people that burned down Minneapolis going to be prosecuted? Or in Seattle? They went into Seattle. They took over a big percentage of the city of Seattle. When are those people going to be prosecuted?
But let me just ask
you. You might ask her that question.
You were the president. You were watching it unfold on television. It's a very simple question as we move forward toward another election. Is there anything you regret about what you did on that day? Yes, sir.
I had nothing to do with that other than they asked me to make a speech. I showed up for a speech. I said, I think it's going to be big. I went to Nancy Pelosi and the mayor of Washington, D.C., and the mayor put it back in writing, as you know. I said, you know, this is going to be a very big rally or whatever you want to call it. And again, it wasn't done by me. It was done by others. I said, I'd like to give you 10,000 National Guard or soldiers. They rejected me. Nancy Pelosi rejected me. It was just 2 weeks ago, her daughter has a tape of her saying she is fully responsible for what happened. They want to get rid of that tape. It would have never happened if Nancy Pelosi and the mayor of Washington did their jobs. I wasn't responsible for security. Nancy Pelosi was responsible. She didn't do her job.
The question was about you as president, not about former Speaker Pelosi, but I do want Vice President Harris to respond here.
I was at the Capitol on January 6th. I was the vice president-elect. I was also an acting senator. I was there. And on that day, the President of the United States incited a violent mob to attack our nation's capital, to desecrate our nation's capital. On that day, 140 law enforcement officers were injured, and some died. And understand, the former president has been indicted and impeached for exactly that reason. But this is not an isolated situation. Let's remember Charlottesville, where there was a mob of people carrying tiki torches, spewing anti-Semitic hate. And what did the president then at the time say? There were fine people on each side. Let's remember that when it came to the Proud Boys, a militia, the president said, the former president said, stand back and stand by. So for everyone watching who remembers what January 6th was, I say, we don't have to go back. Let's not go back. We're not going back. It's time to turn the page. And if that was a bridge too far for you, well, there is a place in our campaign for you to stand for country, to stand for our democracy, to stand for rule of law, and to end the chaos, and to end the approach that is about attacking the foundations of our democracy because you don't like the outcome. And be clear on that point. Donald Trump, the candidate, has said in this election, there will be a bloodbath if this and the outcome of this election is not to his liking. Let's turn the page on this. Let's not go back. Let's chart a course for the future and not go backwards to the past.
Let me just follow up here.
It was a different term, and it was a term that related to energy because they have destroyed our energy business. That was where bloodbath was. Also, on Charlottesville, that story has been, as you would say, debunked. Laura Ingraham, Sean Hannity, Jesse, all of these people, they covered it. If they go an extra sentence, they will see it was perfect. It was debunked in almost every newspaper, but they still bring it up, just like they bring 2025 up. They bring all of this stuff up. I ask you this, you talk about the Capitol. Why are we allowing these millions of people to come through on the southern border? How come she's not doing anything? And I'll tell you what I would do, and I would be very proud to do it. I would say we would both leave this debate right now. I'd like to see her go down to Washington, D.C. during this debate because we're wasting a lot of time. Go down to, because she's been so bad, it's so ridiculous. Go down to Washington, D.C. and let her sign a bill to close up the border because they have the right to do it. They don't need bills. They have the right to do it. The President of the United States, you'll get him out of bed. You'll wake him up at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. You'll say, come on down to the office. Let's sign a bill. If he signs a bill that the border is closed, all he has to do is say it to the Border Patrol, who are phenomenal. If they do that, the border is closed. Those people are killing many people, unlike J6.
We talked immigration here tonight. I do want to focus on this next issue to both of you because it really brings us this into focus, truth in these times that we're living in. Mr. President, for 3.5 years after you lost the 2020 election, you repeatedly falsely claimed that you won, many times saying you won in a landslide. In the past couple of weeks leading up to this debate, you have said, quote, you lost by a whisker, that you, quote, didn't quite make it, that you came up a little bit short.
I said that?
Are you now acknowledging that you lost in 2020?
No, I don't acknowledge that at all.
But
I
you
said
did
that
say that.
sarcastically. You know that. It was said, oh, we lost by a whisker. That was said sarcastically. Look, there's so much proof. All you have to do is look at it. And they should have sent it back to the legislatures for approval. I got almost 75 million votes, the most votes any sitting president has ever gotten. I was told if I got 63, which was what I got in 2016, you can't be beaten. The election, people should never be thinking about an election as fraudulent. We need two things. We need walls. And we have to have it. We have to have borders, and we have to have good elections. Our elections are bad. And a lot of these illegal immigrants coming in, they're trying to get them to vote. They can't even speak English. They don't even know what country they're in practically. And these people are trying to get them to vote. And that's why they're allowing them to come into our country.
I did watch all of these pieces of video. I didn't detect the sarcasm, lost by a whisker. We didn't quite make it. And we should just point out here as clarification, and you know this, you and your allies, 60 cases in front of many judges, many of them
No judge looked at it.
And said
they said we didn't have standing. That's the other thing. They said we didn't have standing, a technicality. Can you imagine a system where a person in an election doesn't have standing? The president of the United States doesn't have standing. That's how we lost. If you look at the facts, and I'd love to have you'll do a special on it. I'll show you Georgia, and I'll show you Wisconsin, and I'll show you Pennsylvania, and I'll show you. We have so many facts and statistics, but you know what? That doesn't matter, because we have to solve the problem that we have right now. That's old news. And the problem that we have right now is we have a nation in decline, and they have put it into decline. We have a nation that is dying, David.
Mr. President, thank you. Vice President Harris, you heard the president there tonight. He said he didn't say that he lost by a whisker. So he still believes he did not lose the election that was won by President Biden and yourself. But I do want to ask you about something that's come up in the last couple of days. This was a post from President Trump about this upcoming election just weeks away. He said, when I win, those people who cheated, and then he lists donors, voters, election officials, he says will be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law, which will include long-term prison sentences. One of your campaign's top lawyers responded saying, we won't let Donald Trump intimidate us. We won't let him suppress the vote. Is that what you believe he's trying to do here?
Donald Trump was fired by 81 million people. So let's be clear about that. And clearly he is having a very difficult time processing that. But we cannot afford to have a president of the United States who attempts, as he did in the past, to upend the will of the voters in a free and fair election. And I'm going to tell you that I have traveled the world as Vice President of the United States, and world leaders are laughing at Donald Trump. I have talked with military leaders, some of whom work with you, and they say you're a disgrace. And when you then talk in this way in a presidential debate and deny what over and over again are court cases you have lost because you did, in fact, lose that election, it leads one to believe that perhaps we do not have in the candidate to my right the temperament or the ability to not be confused about fact. That's deeply troubling, and the American people deserve better.
I'll give you 1 minute to respond, Mr. President.
Let me just say about world leaders. Viktor Orban, one of the most respected men, they call him a strong man. He's a tough person, smart, Prime Minister of Hungary. They said, why is the whole world blowing up? 3 years ago, it wasn't. Why is it blowing up? He said, because you need Trump back as president. They were afraid of him. China was afraid, and I don't like to use the word afraid, but I'm just quoting him. China was afraid of him. North Korea was afraid of him. Look at what's going on with North Korea, by the way. He said Russia was afraid of him. I ended the Nord Stream 2 pipeline, and Biden put it back on day one, but he ended the XL pipeline. The XL pipeline in our country, he ended that. But he let the Russians build a pipeline going all over Europe and heading into Germany, the biggest pipeline in the world. Look, Viktor Orban said it. He said the most respected, most feared person is Donald Trump. We had no problems when Trump was president. But when this weak, pathetic man that you saw at a debate just a few months ago, that if he weren't in that debate, he'd be running instead of her. She got no votes. He got 14 million votes. What you did, you talk about a threat to democracy. He got 14 million votes, and they threw him out of office. And you know what? I'll give you a little secret. He hates her. He can't stand her. But he got 14 million votes. They threw him out. She got 0 votes. And when she ran, she was the first one to leave because she failed. And now she's running. I don't understand it, but I'm okay with it because
your time is
I think we're going to do very well.
We've got a lot more to get to.
Turning now to the Israel-Hamas war and the hostages who are still being held, Americans among them. Vice President Harris, in December, you said, quote, Israel has a right to defend itself, but you added, quote, it matters how, saying international humanitarian law must be respected. Israel must do more to protect innocent civilians. You said that 9 months ago. Now an estimated 40,000 Palestinians are dead. Nearly 100 hostages remain. Just last week, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said there's not a deal in the making. President Biden has not been able to break through the stalemate. How would you do it?
Well, let's understand how we got here. On October 7, Hamas, a terrorist organization, slaughtered 1,200 Israelis. Many of them young people who were simply attending a concert. Women were horribly raped. And so absolutely, I said then, I say now, Israel has a right to defend itself. We would. And how it does so matters, because it is also true, far too many innocent Palestinians have been killed. Children, mothers. What we know is that this war must end. It must end immediately, and the way it will end is we need a ceasefire deal and we need the hostages out. And so we will continue to work around the clock on that. Work around the clock, also understanding that we must chart a course for a two-state solution. And in that solution, there must be security for the Israeli people and Israel, and in equal measure for the Palestinians. But the one thing I will assure you always, I will always give Israel the ability to defend itself, in particular as it relates to Iran and any threat that Iran and its proxies pose to Israel. But we must have a two-state solution where we can rebuild Gaza, where the Palestinians have security, self-determination, and the dignity they so rightly deserve.
President Trump, how would you negotiate with Netanyahu and also Hamas in order to get the hostages out and prevent the killing of more innocent civilians in Gaza?
If I were president, it would have never started. If I were president, Russia would have never, ever, I know Putin very well, he would have never, and there was no threat of it either, by the way, for 4 years, have gone into Ukraine and killed millions of people when you add it up, far worse than people understand what's going on over there. But when she mentions about Israel, all of a sudden, she hates Israel. She wouldn't even meet with Netanyahu when he went to Congress to make a very important speech. She refused to be there because she was at a sorority party of hers. She wanted to go to the sorority party. She hates Israel. If she's president, I believe that Israel will not exist within 2 years from now. And I've been pretty good at predictions, and I hope I'm wrong about that one. She hates Israel. At the same time, in her own way, she hates the Arab population because the whole place is going to get blown up. Arabs, Jewish people, Israel will be gone. It would have never happened. Iran was broke under Donald Trump. Now Iran has $300 billion because they took off all the sanctions that I had. Iran had no money for Hamas or Hezbollah or any of the 28 different spheres of terror. And they are spheres of terror, horrible terror. They had no money. It was a big story, and you know it. You covered it very well, actually. They had no money for terror. They were broke. Now they're a rich nation, and now what they're doing is they're spreading that money around. Look at what's happening with the Houthis and Yemen. Look what's
And it is absolutely well known that these dictators and autocrats are rooting for you to be president again because they're so clear they can manipulate you with flattery and favors. And that is why so many military leaders who you have worked with have told me you are a disgrace. That is why we understand that we have to have a president who is not consistently weak and wrong on
Vice
national
President
security,
Harris.
including the importance of upholding and respecting in highest regard our military.
Vice President Harris, thank you.
They're the ones, and she's the one that caused it, that's weak on national security by allowing every nation last month for the year, 168 different countries sending people into our country. Their crime rates are way down. Putin endorsed her last week, said, I hope she wins. And I think he meant it, because what he's gotten away with is absolutely incredible. It wouldn't have happened with me. The leaders of other countries think that they're weak and incompetent, and they are. They're grossly incompetent. And I just ask one question. Why does Biden go in and kill the Keystone Pipeline and approve the single biggest deal that Russia's ever made, Nord Stream 2, the biggest pipeline anywhere in the world going to Germany and all over Europe? Because they're weak and they're ineffective. And Biden, by the way,
President
gets paid
Trump,
a lot of money.
Thank you. We have a lot of issues to get to.
We'll be right back with much more of this historic ABC News presidential debate from the National Constitution Center right here in Philadelphia. Back in a moment.
Let's go. Now, as you can see now, it's a little break in the action. We're going to tap in and see what we feel so far about this debate. What you getting so far from the debate? Huh? All right, we need headphones on, bro. Mm-hmm. Can you hear me?
Oh. Okay, good.
Huh?
All right. There we go. All right. Turn me up.
Before they come back, what you think about the debate so far?
What I think about this debate is I would like to have a look at Kamala Harris's right foot right now, because I know it's got to be orange from having her foot all up in his ass. This has been, as we've been telling you, as I've been telling you, hey, she is a trained prosecutor. She's a trained litigator. And what is she doing? She baiting him. She keep baiting him, and he keep walking right into them traps. Bow, bow. She keeps setting traps. Bow, got him. Set a trap. They're eating dogs and cats. Set a trap.
God, I can't believe you said that.
Set a trap. He talking about, they asked him.
Said that shit.
Yes. It say he lost by a whisker. Now it's just sarcasm. Oh, I really won. Okay. Then she set up a motherfucking trap that was so beautiful. She told him, world leaders are laughing at Trump and says he's a disgrace. And who do he bring up? Victor Orban. Are you fucking serious? This dude is foot all up in his ass. He says they are giving, because of her and Biden, they are giving transgender operations to illegal aliens in prison. Where the fuck do they do that?
First of all, it's a lot. It's a lot going on here, right? First of all, this is not a good debate for Trump
at all. Like,
if you're a Trump fan, you can't even convince yourself that this is going,
no.
You know what I'm saying, going the way you want. You know what I'm saying? Because at this point, when that man said motherfuckers are eating cats or whatever the fuck he said,
eating cats,
this
and
thing went
dogs.
off the rails.
Yeah. He just. This is bad.
Not the motherfucking
Hey.
cats eating fuck. Like what?
Hey, I told you.
Did you say that
this was going to be bad. this is going to be bad, but I did not think
I
it would get this bad.
I didn't think nothing on earth would make him say that.
They're eating the cats and dogs. What the fuck? Wait, dude.
I don't understand what make him, like my man said, what make him think bringing up Victor, like, bruh.
Of all people in the world, Victor Orban.
Yeah.
No.
What the
Look,
hey, bro, this off the rails for me.
I will
I'll be
say,
honest with you.
I'm gonna say this because
I'm trying to think of the MAGA thought process, but it's nothing here. He is off the rails, bro.
Look, I will say this.
I'm sorry, he off the rails.
We know that MAGA's going to vote for Trump. Dedicated Republicans are going to vote for Trump no matter what, even though. So he got that because MAGA's having a nuclear meltdown right now because he's being fact checked. See, that was a problem with CNN, and it makes CNN even look worse. Now, oh my God, this is just bad. But the people that he needs to stay in this race, I'm about to get it. And to win this race, he just lost tonight. He lost them tonight on two issues. Or two on abortion. He lost them on abortion. He lost all types of women on abortion. And he lost independence and people with common sense and undecideds with that rant about dogs and cats. That his campaign is over.
Not even that. Everything
it's
he's
over.
saying is like go back to border with him, and he's not answering any questions. This shit is odd. Like every question go back to the border is crazy or some shit.
So arguing that if Putin wins, he may be emboldened to move even further into other countries.
He looks
You have said you would solve this war in 24 hours. You said so just before the break tonight. How exactly would you do that? And I want to ask you a very simple question tonight. Do you want Ukraine to win this war?
I want the war to stop. I want to save lives that are being uselessly, people being killed by the millions. It's the millions. It's so much worse than the numbers that you're getting, which are fake numbers. Look, we're in for 250 billion or more because they don't ask Europe, which is a much bigger beneficiary to getting this thing done than we are. They're in for $150 billion less because Biden and you don't have the courage to ask Europe like I did with NATO. They paid billions and billions, hundreds of billions of dollars when I said, either you pay up or we're not going to protect you anymore. So that's maybe one of the reasons they don't like me as much as they like weak people. But you take a look at what's happening. We're in for 250 to 275 billion. They're into 100 to 150. They should be forced to equalize. With that being said, I want to get the war settled. I know Zelensky very well, and I know Putin very well. I have a good relationship, and they respect your president, okay? They respect me. They don't respect Biden. How would you respect him? Why? For what reason? He hasn't even made a phone call in 2 years to Putin, hasn't spoken to anybody. They don't even try and get it. That is a war that's dying to be settled. I will get it settled before I even become president. If I win, when I'm president-elect, and what I'll do is I'll speak to one, I'll speak to the other, I'll get them together. That war would have never happened. And in fact, when I saw Putin after I left, unfortunately left because our country has gone to hell. But after I left, when I saw him building up soldiers, he did it after I left, I said, oh, he must be negotiating. It must be a good, strong point of negotiation. Well, it wasn't, because Biden had no idea how to talk to him. He had no idea how to stop it. And now you have millions of people dead, and it's only getting worse, and it could lead to World War III. Don't kid yourself, David. We're playing with World War III, and we have a president that we don't even know if he's. Where is our president? We don't even know if he's a president.
And just to clarify
they
here,
threw him out of a campaign like a dog. We don't even know. Is he our president? But we have a president,
Mr. President,
that doesn't know he's alive.
your time is up. Just to clarify in the question, Do you believe it's in the U.S. best interest for Ukraine to win this war, yes or no?
I think it's the U.S. best interest to get this war finished and just get it done.
All right.
Negotiate a deal, because we have to stop all of these human lives from being destroyed.
I want to take this to Vice President Harris. I want to get your thoughts on support for Ukraine in this moment, but also as Commander-in-Chief, if elected, how would you deal with Vladimir Putin, and would it be any different from what we're seeing from President Biden?
Well, first of all, it's important to remind the former president, you're not running against Joe Biden, you're running against me. I believe the reason that Donald Trump says that this war would be over within 24 hours is because he would just give it up. And that's not who we are as Americans. Let's understand what happened here. I actually met with Zelensky a few days before Russia invaded, tried through force to change territorial boundaries, to define one of the most important international rules and norms, which is the importance of sovereignty and territorial integrity. And I met with President Zelensky. I shared with him American intelligence about how he could defend himself. Days later, I went to NATO's eastern flank, to Poland and Romania. And through the work that I and others did, we brought 50 countries together to support Ukraine in its righteous defense. And because of our support, because of the air defense, the ammunition, the artillery, the javelins, the Abrams tanks that we have provided, Ukraine stands as an independent and free country. If Donald Trump were president, Putin would be sitting in Kyiv right now. And understand what that would mean, because Putin's agenda is not just about Ukraine. Understand why the European allies and our NATO allies are so thankful that you are no longer president, and that we understand the importance of the greatest military alliance the world has ever known, which is NATO, and what we have done to preserve the ability of Zelensky and the Ukrainians to fight for their independence. Otherwise, Putin would be sitting in Kyiv with his eyes on the rest of Europe, starting with Poland. And why don't you tell the 800,000 Polish Americans right here in Pennsylvania how quickly you would give up for the sake of favor and what you think is a friendship with what is known to be a dictator who would eat you for lunch.
Vice President Harris, thank you. We've heard from both of you on Ukraine tonight. Afghanistan came up in the last hour. I wanted her to respond to something you said earlier, and please, I'll give you a minute here.
Putin would be sitting in Moscow, and he wouldn't have lost 300,000 men and women, but he would have been sitting in Moscow. Quiet, please. He would have been sitting in Moscow much happier than he is right now. But eventually, you know, he's got a thing that other people don't have. He's got nuclear weapons. They don't ever talk about that. He's got nuclear weapons. Nobody ever thinks about that. And eventually, maybe he'll use them, and maybe he hasn't been that threatening. But he does have that, something we don't even like to talk about. Nobody likes to talk about it. But just so you understand, they sent her to negotiate peace before this war started. 3 days later, he went in and he started the war because everything they said was weak and stupid. They said the wrong things. That war should have never started. She was the emissary. They sent her in to negotiate with Zelensky and Putin, and she did. And the war started 3 days later. And that's the kind of talent we have with her. She's worse than Biden. In my opinion, I think he's the worst president in the history of our country. She goes down as the worst vice president in the history of our country. But let me tell you something. She is a horrible negotiator. They sent her in to negotiate. As soon as they left, Putin did the invasion.
President Trump, thank you. You did bring up something. You said she went to negotiate with Vladimir Putin. Vice President Harris, have you ever met Vladimir Putin? Can you clarify tonight?
Yet again, I said it at the beginning of this debate, you're going to hear a bunch of lies coming from this fellow. And that is another one. When I went to meet with President Zelensky, I've now met with him over 5 times. The reality is it has been about standing as America always should, as a leader upholding international rules and norms, as a leader who shows strength, understanding that the alliances we have around the world are dependent on our ability to look out for our friends and not favor our enemies because you adore strongmen instead of caring about democracy. And that is very much what is at stake here. The President of the United States is commander-in-chief. And the American people have a right to rely on a president who understands the significance of America's role and responsibility in terms of ensuring that there is stability and ensuring we stand up for our principles and not sell them for the benefit of personal flattery.
We've talked about Ukraine and Vladimir Putin. I do want to talk about Afghanistan. It came up in the first hour of this debate. I want to move on to Afghanistan.
Stoltenberg said Trump did the most amazing thing I've ever seen. He got these countries, the 28 countries at the time, to pay up. He said, I've never seen. He's the head of NATO. He said, I've never seen. For years, we were paying almost all of NATO. We were being ripped off by European nations, both on trade and on NATO. I got them to pay up by saying one of the statements you made before, if you don't pay, we're not going to protect you. Otherwise, we would have never gotten it. He said it was one of the most incredible jobs that he's ever seen done.
Thank you. I want to turn to Afghanistan. It came up in the first hour of the debate, and we witnessed a poignant moment today on Capitol Hill, honoring the soldiers who died in the chaotic withdrawal from Afghanistan. I do want to ask the Vice President, do you believe you bear any responsibility in the way that withdrawal played out?
Well, I will tell you, I agreed with President Biden's decision to pull out of Afghanistan. 4 presidents said they would, and Joe Biden did. And as a result, America's taxpayers are not paying the $300 million a day we were paying for that endless war. And as of today, there is not one member of the United States military who is in active duty in a combat zone in any war zone around the world, the first time this century. But let's understand how we got to where we are. Donald Trump, when he was president, negotiated one of the weakest deals you can imagine. He calls himself a deal maker. Even his national security advisor said it was a weak, terrible deal. And here's how it went down. He bypassed the Afghan government. He negotiated directly with a terrorist organization called the Taliban. The negotiation involved the Taliban getting 5,000 Taliban terrorists released. And get this, and the president at the time invited the Taliban to Camp David, a place of storied significance for us as Americans, a place where we honor the importance of American diplomacy, where we invite and receive respected world leaders. And this former president, as president, invited them to Camp David because he does not, again, appreciate the role and responsibility of the President of the United States to be commander-in-chief with a level of respect. And this gets back to the point of how he has consistently disparaged and demeaned members of our military, fallen soldiers, and the work that we must do to uphold the strength and the respect of the United States of America around the world.
Vice President Harris, thank you. President Trump, your response to her saying that you began the negotiations with the Taliban.
So if you take a look at that period of time, the Taliban was killing our soldiers, a lot of them, with snipers. And I got involved with the Taliban because the Taliban was doing the killing. That's the fighting force within Afghanistan. They don't bother doing that because, you know, they deal with the wrong people all the time. But I got involved. And Abdul is the head of the Taliban. He is still the head of the Taliban. And I told Abdul, don't do it anymore. You do it anymore, you're going to have problems. And he said, why do you send me a picture of my house? I said, you're going to have to figure that out, Abdul. And for 18 months, we had nobody killed. We did have an agreement negotiated by Mike Pompeo. It was a very good agreement. The reason it was good, it was we were getting out. We would have been out faster than them, but we wouldn't have lost the soldiers. We wouldn't have left many Americans behind, and we wouldn't have left $85 billion worth of brand new, beautiful military equipment behind. And just to finish, they blew it. The agreement said you have to do this, 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 and they didn't do it. They didn't do it. The agreement was terminated by us because they didn't do what they were supposed to do.
I want to move on.
And these people did the worst withdrawal, and in my opinion, the most embarrassing moment in the history of our country. And by the way, that's why Russia attacked Ukraine, because they saw how incompetent she and her boss are.
President Trump, thank you. I want to move on now to race and politics in this country. Mr. President, you recently said of Vice President Harris, quote, "I didn't know she was black until a number of years ago when she happened to turn black, and now she wants to be known as black." I want to ask a bigger picture question here tonight. Why do you believe it's appropriate to weigh in on the racial identity of your opponent?
I don't, and I don't care. I don't care what she is. I don't care. You make a big deal out of something. I couldn't care less. Whatever she wants to be is okay with me.
But those were your words, so I'm
I
asking.
don't know. I don't know. I mean, all I can say is I read where she was not black, that she put out, and I'll say that. And then I read that she was black, and that's okay. Either one was okay with me. That's up to her. That's up to her.
Vice President Harris, your thoughts on this?
I think it's, I mean, honestly, I think it's a tragedy that we have someone who wants to be president who has consistently, over the course of his career, attempted to use race to divide the American people. You know, I do believe that the vast majority of us know that we have so much more in common than what separates us, and we don't want this kind of approach that is just constantly trying to divide us, and especially by race. And let's remember how Donald Trump started. He was land, he owned buildings, and he was investigated because he refused to rent property to black families. Let's remember, this is the same individual who took out a full-page ad in the New York Times calling for the execution of 5 young Black and Latino boys who were innocent, the Central Park 5. Took out a full-page ad calling for their execution. This is the same individual who spread birther lies about the first black president of the United States. And I think the American people want better than that, want better than this, want someone who understands, as I do, I travel our country. We see in each other a friend. We see in each other a neighbor. We don't want a leader who is constantly trying to have Americans point their fingers at each other. I meet with people all the time who tell me, can we please just have discourse about how we're going to invest in the aspirations and the ambitions and the dreams of the American people, knowing that regardless of people's color or the language their grandmother speaks, we all have the same dreams and aspirations and want a president who invests in those, not in hate and division.
Vice President Harris, thank you. Lindsay?
President Trump, this is now your 3rd time.
This is the most divisive presidency in the history of our country. There's never been anything like it. They're destroying our country, and they come up with things like what she just said. Going back many, many years, when a lot of people, including Mayor Bloomberg, agreed with me on the Central Park 5, they admitted, they said, they pled guilty. And I said, well, if they pled guilty, they badly hurt a person, killed a person ultimately. And if they pled guilty, then they pled, we're not guilty. But this is a person that has to stretch back years, 40, 50 years ago, because there's nothing now. I built one of the greatest economies in the history of the world, and I'm going to build it again. It's going to be bigger, better, and stronger. But they're destroying our economy. They have no idea what a good economy is. Their oil policies, every single policy. And remember this, she is Biden. You know, she's trying to get away from Biden. I don't know the gentleman, she says. She is Biden. The worst inflation we've ever had, a horrible economy because inflation has made it so bad, and she can't get away with that.
Thank you. Your time is up.
I want to respond to that, though. I want to just respond briefly. Clearly, I am not Joe Biden, and I am certainly not Donald Trump. And what I do offer is a new generation of leadership for our country, one who believes in what is possible, one who brings a sense of optimism about what we can do instead of always disparaging the American people. I believe in what we can do to strengthen our small businesses, which is why I have a plan. Let's talk about our plans and let's compare the plans. I have a plan to give startup businesses $50,000 tax deduction to pursue their ambitions, their innovation, their ideas, their hard work. I have a plan, $6,000 for young families for the first year of your child's life to help you in that most critical stage of your child's development. I have a plan that is about allowing people to be able to pursue what has been fleeting in terms of the American dream by offering a help with down payment of $25,000 down payment assistance for first-time home buyers. That's the kind of conversation, I believe, David, that people really want tonight, as opposed to a conversation that is constantly about belittling and name-calling. Let's turn the page.
Vice President
and move
Harris,
forward.
thank you. Let's turn to policy.
President
Let's
Trump,
turn back
we
to
have
policy.
to move on. President Trump.
Let's turn to policy, please.
To defund the police. She has a plan to confiscate everybody's gun.
President Trump,
she has
we do
a
have to
plan
move
to
on to
not
other
allow
issues.
fracking in Pennsylvania or anywhere
Why
else.
not let
That's
him
what her
go?
plan is until just recently.
I just need
Lindsay,
to respond
President
because
Trump,
you know, the
President
former
Trump,
president has said
no, I'm
something
sorry.
twice that I need to respond
No,
to.
I'm sorry. We're
I
gonna
just
we're
need
gonna
to
move
respond
on, Vice
one
President
time
Harris.
to what he has
President
said
Trump, this is
multiple
now your
Yes.
third time running for president. You have long vowed to repeal and replace the Affordable Care Act, also known as Obamacare. You have failed to accomplish that. You now say you're going to keep Obamacare, quote, unless we can do something much better. Last month, you said, quote, we're working on it. So tonight, 9 years after you first started running, do you have a plan, and can you tell us what it is?
Obamacare was lousy health care, always was. It's not very good today. And what I said, that if we come up with something, and we are working on things, we're going to do it and we're going to replace it. But remember this. I inherited Obamacare because Democrats wouldn't change it. They wouldn't vote for it. They were unanimous. They wouldn't vote to change it. If they would have done that, we would have had a much better plan than Obamacare. But the Democrats came up. They wouldn't vote for it. I had a choice to make when I was president. Do I save it and make it as good as it can be, never going to be great, or do I let it rot? And I felt I had an obligation, even though politically it would have been good to just let it rot and let it go away. I decided, and I told my people, the top people, and they're very good people. I have a lot of good people in that administration. We read about the bad ones. We had some real bad ones too, and so do they. They have really bad ones. The difference is they don't get rid of them. But let me just explain. I had a choice to make. Do I save it and make it as good as it can be, or do I let it rot? And I saved it. I did the right thing. But it's still never going to be great, and it's too expensive for people. And what we will do is we're looking at different plans. If we can come up with a plan that's going to cost our people, our population, less money and be better health care than Obamacare, then I would absolutely do it. But until then, I'd run it as good as it can be run.
So just a yes or no, you still do not have a plan?
I have concepts of a plan. I'm not president right now. But if we come up with something, I would only change it if we come up with something that's better and less expensive. And there are concepts and options we have to do that. And you'll be hearing about it in the not too distant future.
Vice President Harris, in 2017, you supported Bernie Sanders' proposal to do away with private insurance and create a government-run healthcare system. 2 years later, you proposed a plan that included a private insurance option. What is your plan today?
Well, first of all, I absolutely support, and over the last 4 years as vice president, private healthcare options. But what we need to do is maintain and grow the Affordable Care Act. But I'll get to that, Lindsay. I just need to respond to a previous point that the former president has made. I've made very clear my position on fracking. And then this business about taking everyone's guns away. Tim Walz and I are both gun owners. We're not taking anybody's guns away. So stop with the continuous lying about this stuff. As it relates to the Affordable Care Act, understand, just look at the history to know where people stand. When Donald Trump was president, 60 times he tried to get rid of the Affordable Care Act. 60 times. I was a senator at the time when I will never forget the early morning hours when it was up for a vote in the United States Senate. And the late, great John McCain, who you have disparaged as being, you don't like him, you said at the time, because he got caught. He was an American hero. The late, great John McCain, I will never forget that night, walked onto the Senate floor and said, no, you don't. No, you don't. No, you don't get rid of the Affordable Care Act. You have no plan. And what the Affordable Care Act has done is eliminate the ability of insurance companies to deny people with pre-existing conditions. I don't have to tell the people watching tonight, you remember what that was like? Remember when an insurance company could deny if a child had asthma, if someone was a breast cancer survivor, if a grandparent had diabetes? And thankfully, as I've been vice president and we over the last 4 years have strengthened the Affordable Care Act, we have allowed for the first time Medicare to negotiate drug prices on behalf of you, the American people. Donald Trump said he was going to allow Medicare to negotiate drug prices. He never did. We did. And now we have capped the cost of insulin at $35 a month. Since I've been vice president, we have capped the cost of prescription medication for seniors at $2,000 a year. And when I am president, we will do that for all people, understanding that the value I bring to this is that access to health care should be a right and not just a privilege of those who can afford it. And the plan has to be to strengthen the Affordable Care Act, not get rid of it,
Vice
pass as
President
pro-law
Harris,
in
thank
terms
you.
of where Donald Trump stands on that.
I want to move to an issue that's important for a
She
lot
made a
of
mistake. At number one,
No, you
John
cannot
McCain
keep
fought
letting them do that.
Obamacare for 10 years. But it wasn't only him. It were all of the Democrats that kept it going. And you know what? We could do much better than Obamacare, much less money. But she won't improve private insurance for people, private medical insurance. That's another thing she doesn't want to get.
President
People
Trump.
are paying privately for insurance that have worked hard and made money, and they want to have private. She wants everybody to be on government insurance where you wait 6 months for an operation that you need immediately.
President Trump, thank you. We have another issue that we'd like to get to that's important for a number of Americans, in particular younger voters, and that's climate change. President Trump, with regard to the environment, you say that we have to have clean air and clean water. Vice President Harris, you call climate change an existential threat. The question to you both tonight is, what would you do to fight climate change? And Vice President Harris, we'll start with you. 1 minute for you each.
Well, the former president had said the climate change is a hoax. And what we know is that it is very real. You ask anyone who lives in a state who has experienced these extreme weather occurrences, who now is either being denied home insurance or it's being jacked up. You ask anybody who has been the victim of what that means in terms of losing their home, having nowhere to go. We know that we can actually deal with this issue. The young people of America care deeply about this issue. And I am proud that as vice president over the last 4 years, we have invested $1 trillion in a clean energy economy, while we have also increased domestic gas production to historic levels. We have created over 800,000 new manufacturing jobs while I have been vice president. We have invested in clean energy to the point that we are opening up factories around the world. Donald Trump said he was going to create manufacturing jobs. He lost manufacturing jobs. And I'm also proud to have the endorsement of the United Auto Workers and Sean Fain, who also know that part of building a clean energy economy includes investing in American-made products, American automobiles. It includes growing what we can do around American manufacturing and opening up auto plants, not closing them like happened under Donald Trump.
Vice President Harris, thank you.
That didn't happen under Donald Trump. Let me just tell you, they lost 10,000 manufacturing jobs this last month. It's going, they're all leaving. They're building big auto plants in Mexico, in many cases owned by China. They're building these massive plants, and they think they're going to sell their cars into the United States because of these people. What they have given to China is unbelievable, but we're not going to let that. We'll put tariffs on those cars so they can't come into our country, because they will kill the United Auto Workers and any auto worker, whether it's in Detroit or South Carolina or any other place. What they've done to business and manufacturing in this country is horrible. We have nothing because they refuse. You know, Biden doesn't go after people because supposedly China paid him millions of dollars. He's afraid to do it. Between him and his son, they get all this money from Ukraine. They get all this money from all of these different countries. And then you wonder, why is he so loyal to this one, that one, Ukraine, China? Why is he? Why did he get $3.5 million from the mayor of Moscow's wife? Why did she pay him $3.5 million? This is a crooked administration, and they're selling our country down the tubes.
President Trump, thank you.
Thank you.
We'll be right back with closing statements from both of our candidates. An historic night, this ABC News presidential debate from Philadelphia. Back in a moment.
The ABC News presidential debate will continue.
All right, before they come back, we're going to tap in and rap to y'all for a minute or two.
Yeah, for a minute
You know
or two.
what I'm saying? Now, it's a lot going on. It's a lot that I can't take.
Yeah.
First of all, when you give a question to a person, right? Then somebody respond, right? You let that person respond, then you let that person, all right, then we move on, right? They keep letting this motherfucker keep talking, say, no, let it go back. And keep going on for another 2 minutes about the same garbage. And then when she be like, oh, let me say something again. Nah, they got another question now. Like, hold on, what are we doing? You gonna let him do that wild shit? You gotta let her talk too. Like, he going over his time. We already asked this question. He gave an answer. She gave an answer. They rebuttal. Then move on. No, he want to say some other shit because something hurt his feelings. Now you see what I'm saying? And they gonna turn the mic back on. Now the mic's off. Why have mics off if you gonna turn it on so he can continue?
I agree with you.
That's some jackass shit.
I agree with you on that. But check this out. They ain't doing that but let him hang himself.
Regardless.
I understand.
They cannot let him keep doing
I understand. But he doing it. They letting him do it.
I see what you're saying.
And he just digging himself out.
Bro, this ain't been over.
This is why they wanted the mics unmuted anyway, so he just ramble on. So they was like, if he ramble on, let him ramble on.
Yeah, let him hang himself. I understand where I'm coming from with that. I get that.
This is what you wanted.
Moderate themselves. I get what y'all saying. I get it's benefit. I know that.
Yeah.
But
I wouldn't.
The moderators themselves are not controlling this shit right, bro. It's like he just constantly talking.
Let him.
And then if he constantly talk, they just turn the mics back on so you can hear him. Like, what the fuck are you turning the mics off for?
Yeah.
This shit is ignorant.
He wanted mics muted.
But when she try to respond to that dumb shit, then it's another question.
But see, she ain't even complaining about it because she
comes
sit
back
there,
to it herself.
because she sit there, watch him hang himself. Then she'll get her minute or a minute and a half or whatever, and then she'll light his ass up some more and keep it moving. This dude, look, this dude was over.
The last joint, he went on for 2 minutes after they both already went back and forth. And then she's, hey, can I respond?
No.
And the lady went on to the next fucking question. And then went to the next thing. She was like, fuck it, I gotta go back to this before we go to that. You know what I'm saying? Because you already moved on, now I gotta go back to that. But first of all, let's get back to
It doesn't say that in Trump too. You know that when they really ready to move on, they cut both of them off and move on. But they're giving them what they want. He's not answering the question at all.
No, he's never doing that.
So when he's rambling
if me and you moderating and we give him a question, she answer it, then he get his rebuttal, she say something, then he say something, then we move on. Then he want to keep going on because something she said done blew him. It's like, no, you can't turn his mic back on so he can continue. Now, that the motherfucking rules the way she wanted them then.
Yeah.
That shit is
But
ridiculous.
basically, it ended up with the rules being the way she wanted it because she knew
basically
all
got the
the
mics
break.
on.
Yeah, because she already knew. Everybody
her
already
shit
knew.
muted.
If those mics is left on, he was gonna hang himself. And what happened? He hung himself.
Nah, he did it with just the mics, him talking.
He hung himself
Man,
tonight.
this nigga went into the motherfuckers eating fucking cats or some
Look,
shit.
it was over.
Like, bruh, what?
It was over. That was the minute this debate was over. And in my opinion, that's the minute this election is over.
What did he say exactly though? Somebody eating cats?
He basically said Haitians are over here eating dogs and cats.
Now, for me,
in Springfield, Ohio.
For black MAGAs out there, I need you to tell me, is this racism or not? Like, this is their overall goal to put all black people out of this country. So they don't put them under the umbrella of Mexicans now. So now when they come get all them, Haitians is now in it too.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? And how the fuck they gonna know they Haitian when we all look black?
And on
so
the
who
for
they
real,
snatching up?
And on the for real,
this shit gonna get ugly with that dumb ass shit.
You can
it's racist.
You could classify it as racism. You know what I classified as dumbism, and and his fucking campaign is dumb.
That shit is racist, bro.
Why would anybody who's running for president in their right mind,
Haitians eating cats?
would you repeat that? Why would you allow
Oh shit! Hold on.
him
It's the oddest shit. Yeah, why would you repeat
him
that?
to repeat it? And why you wouldn't even allow him to?
It's the stupidest.
At some
shit,
point,
bro.
they brought it up, and
because they brought
this
it
is
up on
dumb.
Twitter. Both of them.
Understanding the aspirations, the dreams, the hopes, the ambition of the American people, which is why I intend to create an opportunity economy, investing in small businesses, in new families, in what we can do around protecting seniors, what we can do that is about giving hardworking folks a break and bringing down the cost of living. I believe in what we can do together that is about sustaining America's standing in the world and ensuring that we have the respect that we so rightly deserve, including respecting our military and ensuring we have the most lethal fighting force in the world. I will be a president that will protect our fundamental rights and freedoms, including the right of a woman to make decisions about her own body and not have her government tell her what to do. I'll tell you, I started my career as a prosecutor. I was a DA, I was an attorney general, a United States senator, and now vice president. I've only had one client, the people. And I'll tell you, as a prosecutor, I never asked a victim or a witness, are you a Republican or a Democrat? The only thing I ever asked them, are you okay? And that's the kind of president we need right now. Someone who cares about you and is not putting themselves first. I intend to be a president for all Americans and focus on what we can do over the next 10 and 20 years to build back up our country by investing right now in you, the American people.
Vice President Harris, thank you. President Trump?
So she just started by saying she's going to do this, she's going to do that, she's going to do all these wonderful things. Why hasn't she done it? She's been there for 3.5 years. They've had 3.5 years to fix the border. They've had 3.5 years to create jobs and all the things we talked about. Why hasn't she done it? She should leave right now, go down to that beautiful White House, go to the Capitol, get everyone together and do the things you want to do, but you haven't done it and you won't do it because you believe in things that the American people don't believe in. You believe in things like we're not going to frack, we're not going to take fossil fuel, we're not going to do things that are going to make this country strong, whether you like it or not. Germany tried that, and within 1 year, they were back to building normal energy plants. We're not ready for it. We can't sacrifice our country for the sake of bad vision. But I just ask one simple question. Why didn't she do it? We're a failing nation. We're a nation that's in serious decline. We're being laughed at all over the world. All over the world, they're laughed. I know the leaders very well. They're coming to see me. They call me. We're laughed at all over the world. They don't understand what happened to us as a nation. We're not a leader. We don't have any idea what's going on. We have wars going on in the Middle East. We have wars going on with Russia and Ukraine. We're going to end up in a third world war, and it'll be a war like no other because of nuclear weapons, the power of weaponry. I rebuilt our entire military. She gave a lot of it away to the Taliban. She gave it to Afghanistan. What these people have done to our country, and maybe toughest of all, is allowing millions of people to come into our country. Many of them are criminals, and they're destroying our country. The worst president, the worst vice president in the history of our country.
President Trump, thank you. And that is our ABC News presidential debate from here in Philadelphia at the National Constitution Center. I'm Lindsay Davis.
And I'm David Muir. Thank you for watching here in the U.S. and all over the world, and from all of us here at ABC News. Good night.
Good night to you.
Well.
You bitch ass, and you too, you girl. You let that fool bully that thing. But one thing I got clear. The new president of the United States of America is going to be a bloody lady. I love it. Green chickens in the White House, baby. Greens in the White House and bacon in it. You know what I'm saying? Now, now I'm gonna start this thing off. First of all, I'm gonna tell you what I'm feeling. First of all, he is a complete fool. First of all. Second, she did two things she needed to do, right? Look like a fucking president. First. Second, show how he not. You know what I'm saying? Those are two things you need to do. As a woman, I'm gonna look presidential. As a woman, I'm gonna show you he ain't. So that was the whole thing with it, right? Two is anything she needed to get out. There's no way she going back home saying, damn, I wanted to say this. She literally got everything out that she could possibly say, my guy. Like, it ain't nothing she gonna go in the house and be like, God damn, I should have said this to this fool. Nope. Now, I felt that after Hillary. I was like, God damn it. There's some things she's left on the table there. You know what I'm saying? But here, I ain't feel it. I don't feel like something was left, right? I'm mad that the moderators wouldn't let her come back to bullshit after he'll say some other bullshit, right? But other than that, she made up for that by saying, okay, hold on. I know that was your question, but let me get back to those two things before that you wouldn't let me answer. You know what I'm saying? Now, long as she did that, then I'm good. But the moderators got some more bullshitters too. That's some good questions though. I ain't gonna give y'all. I'm not gonna fake on that. They had some good questions for both, right? But it's just the amount of time they allowed each one of them when they just let him ramsack most of it. To turn the mic back on to hear him, why are you doing that? Why mute mics if you want to turn it back on after he breaking the rules? Yeah,
I was like, turn it on. I was like, turn it on. I can't hear him. Turn it on. I was like, turn it on. I can't hear him.
You see what I'm saying? Just leave him on there.
That was his people that wanted it like that.
Even when it was muted, he talked over the mute. It was just low.
I know. That's why they cut it back on. That was the whole setup.
The only thing.
That was the whole setup. They wanted. But I'm gonna say I mean, I got, like always, he never answers a question. Like always, period, point blank. He sticks to the talking points of what he wanted, what his campaign tried to tell him. Whatever question they ask you, just stay with this. Whatever question they ask you, stay with this. So he's not answering the two questions or nothing. Lied about January 6th. Lied about a lot of things on there. And then she was able to control the narrative just by her everyday speech, her everyday rally talk. You know,
that's why I try to tell you that she got everything in. Hell yeah. Go ahead, Tom.
And she got her hits in when she needed it too.
Look, this is what I've been saying for the past few weeks. The woman is a trained litigator. She knows how to say a lot and use few words to do it. And that's what she did. She didn't need all that. She didn't need all that time. She didn't need extra time to get her point across. She know how to get her point across and get it across with less words as possible. Everybody know, I don't give a fuck who the moderators was. Trump was going to do what Trump was going to do. Trump going to try to get he going to lie. He going to go over the time. He going to try to bully. He going to try to just take over the stage. He tried. He couldn't. He tried his best, but she kept shutting him down. And she just shut him down with a few sentences and bam. She made him look like a jackass. And she let him look like a jackass.
Now, the stupid ass smirk he had on his face the whole time. His eyes were like this. He couldn't even. His facial expression was not trying to smile, but his eyes was like.
He would not make eye contact with her. He never looked to the left at all.
He wanted to call her out her name.
How long
so
was this
bad.
debate?
90 minutes.
He actually never looked. He never turned his head to the side. So you got to do that on purpose, bro. It's somebody sitting there you talking to, but you purposely not even turning his way.
No.
I want somebody to look at this debate and tell me when the hell he looked at her. He never looked at her.
Look,
because he looked at he was debating Biden. He was looking for Biden in the crowd. Because he was looking for Biden on TV. Because what
She
was on his
said
lap,
to him the whole
he was there
debate.
talking about it. Yeah.
He never would look back at her, bruh.
Because and a lot of, and people online noticed it and commented on about it.
They
What
did?
it was, hell yeah. What it was, my opinion, basically,
What was that?
he showed his disdain for her. He don't like her. He don't
She
respect
black.
her.
She's a black
He don't
woman.
respect her enough to look her in her
that's
face.
bad.
And he was lying. What? Look, when you lying to a person and on a person, you can't look at that person.
And remember, she said, "Say it to my face."
Yeah.
Remember that shit? He would never look at her, bruh.
Because
That's
he
the
can't.
hardest thing I've seen in my life, where you never turn your head that side. Like, how do you pull that off? It's somebody actually talking directly to you right there, and you literally keep doing this.
Yeah.
And you doing this. And the whole time Tony talking right here, I'm still doing like this.
No.
Like, how you do that for an hour and a half, bruh?
She came out there tonight.
Damn.
She came out on that stage tonight
I'm shocked that he
and,
pulled that off
and,
right there.
and pulled his card and called that mofo every name in the book. She called him a disgrace to his face. Right to his face. Said, you are a disgrace. She pulled his card. She pulled his racism card. She basically called him a racist.
And he was like, man, you pull up old stuff.
And she bought receipts. She basically said he don't like women. He's a misogynist. He cares nothing about women. And she bought receipts.
Another thing happened was the border. It's huge thing, right? Two things she got out with that border thing.
And she bought receipts.
The fact that she locked motherfuckers up about this border, right? And then the border bill itself. He never responded to the bill. Main man asked him point blank, why did you stop the bill? He would not answer that. He never answered that question.
Like, you got a dumb fuck. Ben Shapiro is a dumb fuck.
We're gonna get him in a minute. I see him.
Yeah, he's a dumb shit.
But you see how he just wasn't making sense. It was just throwing me off. I was trying to follow him sometime where I could try to, decipher what he's saying, but this was a tough night for me.
Clear that the Democrats and the allies of Kamala Harris are very happy with the way that she prosecuted the case against Donald Trump. But we know going in, about 30% of voters were saying, we don't really know who she is or what she's about. Do you think?
Let's get on that for a minute. It's already doing the bullshit that I'm talking about, bruh.
Oh, I wanted to hear that.
She blasted their ass, right? She blasted them. There's nothing left to do with that. She still want to bring up old motherfucking pose talking about some. I don't know her. To me, if you're a jackass out there and don't know who the vice president is of the fucking United States and you living in America, that you don't need to fucking vote any fucking way. So you can't be a person that, damn, I can vote. I'm gonna vote. I just gotta figure out who she is. I don't know who she is. Really?
Yeah, I don't understand that.
This girl for 3 years making no fucking sense with that. Stop talking dumb. If you want to know what a policy is, that's something different. But to say you don't know her, that sounds dumb. Come the fuck on. That makes you look dumb. This clown that nigga run for president, talking about who's her? I say hers. Nobody knows who she is. What? You're a jackass. She's the vice president, you dummy, of the United States. These niggas tripping with that, bruh. Oh my God. Oh, let's listen to Rocco Rubio, dumbass. Let's see how he spin this shit.
Never asked questions that I wanted to see asked. For example, grocery prices are up 50% from 2020. What is your responsibility for that? I thought her answer on Afghanistan was complete nonsense. She was vice president at the time. Joe Biden didn't withdraw from Afghanistan. We were run out of Afghanistan. So on issue after issue, I think for the first time, voters are starting to get a glimpse of someone and starting to understand the positions that she truly believes in. She's basically cut and paste, literally cut and paste out of the Biden agenda. People don't want the Biden agenda.
All right, hold on. It's a few things going on here with this clown, right? I'm gonna tell you how she did so good in this debate. That normal shit. He you can see he had no feet under him as he's speaking. right? The shit he's saying is the shit they said before the debate. She laid out all that shit in this debate. So it's hard for him to come on the other side of the debate and say the same talking points because now you sound crazy. And you can see it while he's talking that he don't really want to say this. He's just trying to figure out shit as he talking. He sounds dumb as fuck, bro. Dumb.
Take away guns from people in the past. You wanted the Bernie Sanders health care plan. You wanted to ban fracking. You bailed out, tried to raise money to bail out rioters in 2020 in the summer. These are new facts that a lot of people don't know about Kamala Harris that they learned tonight for the first time. And I think, as you've seen in the polling, a lot of 25% of Americans wanted to learn more about him. They learned more about her tonight.
Senator Rubio, thank you for your time. We want to go to Kate Snow. She's been talking with a group of undecided voters in where else? Battleground, Pennsylvania. Kate, we've all been dying to hear what they thought and how they reacted to what they heard tonight.
Yeah, Savannah, it's been really interesting watching with you all because I could see your reactions in real time. There were a lot of visceral reactions. In one word, if I can ask, how would you headline this debate? One word to describe what you saw, Lynn.
Well, it's 4 words. Same old, same old.
Hannah.
Manipulative.
And Andrew.
Lies on both sides.
Okay.
Lies.
Well, no, you came in all undecided. Has anything changed your mind tonight? Is there anything you heard here that you thought, oh yeah, I could go for that policy. I could stand with that candidate?
Not really. For me, I think Kamala had a good debate. I'm feel more favorably towards her than to Donald, but I'm still not
sure.
Not 100%.
The two of you women reacted very strongly when Harris was talking about abortion. When both candidates were talking about abortion rights, you reacted strongly to Donald Trump and his positions. You seemed emotional about it, Hannah.
Yes.
What was your thought on that? What was it about that part of the debate that struck you?
His misinformation. He sensationalized just so much facts or not things that are not facts that have been disproven.
When he was talking
he
about
does it because that is what his supporters want to hear. And it really impacts who people like us, if we choose to vote for him or not, because we know you are lying, but you're still saying it. And it's disgusting.
You all said it was the economy going in. Andrew, anything you heard that changes how you're thinking about their economic policies?
No, because at the end of the day, December and November is going to roll around and they're going to pass. They're going to say we're going to shut down the government and they're going to pass an omnibus and they're going to spend trillions of dollars and nothing else is going to change. They're just going to keep spending money uncontrollably. Donald Trump spent $6 trillion in 2019 and added that to our deficit. So absolutely not. They're spending money and then it's coming back into the government, into the congressman, into the Senate through funds, through PACs, through all the disgustingness.
Andrew, thank you so much. Hannah, Lynn, it's great to be with you. I'll send.
Thoughts. Christian, first to you. Will we know who won this debate in days or weeks or months?
Well, a couple of weeks, I would say, once we look.
Fuck that. I won't get on this independent shit. These independents is irking me, bro. Can nobody watching this podcast right now can look us in the face and tell us that those 3 people are undecided? Let's be realistic, bro. As you listen to each one of them talk, do they sound like they frustrated Trump voters or not? That their candidate is so much a piece of shit, they can't defend him, and there's nothing they can do. And he's so bad on abortion. The girls there don't know what to say. She ain't had no choice but to say, well, she had a good debate, but I still feel the same. Because they want to fucking keep coming on CNN.
Yeah.
They fucking Republicans, bro. They not undecided. Why they keep doing this fake ass undecided shit? If you ain't clear whether or not you're gonna vote for a racist pig that motherfucking raped a hoe, and 50 bitches say he did the same thing to them, you will still vote for that clown. That's what you want to do. Period. That's it to this shit here, y'all. There's no more to this. Nobody need to know. Nobody know further. You vote for him, you respect and love racism. You respect and love motherfuckers that disrespect women, bruh. That's just the bottom fucking line. It don't go no further. He been running for 10 years. He been a racist the whole time. For somebody to sit here in 2024 and sit here and act like they don't understand which way to vote, fuck them. In fact, you disqualified from voting, motherfucker. Obviously, you ain't been doing your homework. You just three jackasses.
But
fuck
the problem
is shit.
But he said these immigrants coming in taking black and Spanish jobs. What is
Man.
black and Spanish jobs?
This
He
is
said
shit is so.
He definitely got to go with that. He said that
black
dumb.
and Spanish jobs. Yeah. Threw me off for that one.
You gotta realize that's racism. When he try to insinuate that all black and Spanish jobs are trash ass jobs. Gutter trash ass jobs. That's all we worth. Black people is the worst jobs in America. So he relate us to those. Hey, everybody come in with no education, can't speak English, they can take your job. Man, I will smack your pig orange ass in the face, bro, if you was to say that in my mother. Bro, is he serious?
Yeah.
Half of this shit is racism on his face. Come on, man. But I do appreciate. You guys want to say something? Yeah.
You're not ready to vote.
That race gets me heated, bro.
Now is the time to get out, register to vote. You have what? Less than 2 months left. Some people are start doing early voting. Get your early vote in. Then wait till the last minute. Get it in. Let it in. That way it's already there. Let's get our foots on the ground and not going back. Foots on the ground. We are not going back.
And then and plus this motherfucking debate said it clear. You can't tell me coming out of this debate that she can't be president first. First of all, she ain't had command of the motherfucking issues. Anything you asked her, she had command of that. Can't tell me that. You can't tell me when they asked her a question, she lied. That bitch in the middle, that hoe in the middle, supposed to be independent, gonna say some fucking where they both lying. What the fuck are you talking about? What? I hate that shit, bruh. And when we do the fact checking, I bet she lied about 700 times in this 1 hour and a half. I guarantee you 700 plus times. But you want to equate her with lies. Like that's that bullshit. But I do, at the end of this debate, I see, period, I give her credit. I give her an A plus for one, coming in, getting her motherfucking issues out, letting everybody know exactly everything she want to do, everything down to the bottom of what she want to do, period. Can't nobody lead this debate acting like they don't know what she want to do. She actually told you step by step everything she want to do, from $25,000 loans, $50,000 to start your motherfucking business. Y'all know what the fuck she want to do. She want to restore women's rights ASAP, soon as she walk in the door. Y'all know what the fuck she want to do, and you know what this racist pig want to do. So anybody can sit on the fucking CNN or whatever the fuck clown ass show you sitting on, acting like you don't know where you want to vote. Fuck you. At this point, you love racist pigs. You support that, and that's the fucking bottom line. And all you black maggots, you on the island by yourself now. I don't even want to talk to y'all no more. Before we get out of here, shorty. Oh, you done? Go ahead, Tom. Before I rant some up.
Yeah, before you rant some up.
This was bad. Hold on. Let me pause this real quick. This was really, really, really bad tonight. It was so bad that even Fox News said Trump had a bad night and couldn't justify it. The only one on Fox News was that little ass kisser Jesse Waters. He talking about Trump's gave out the most memorable lines, talking about dogs, people eating dogs and cats and shit. Dude, get your head out that man's ass. I looked over on CNN. Chris Wallace absolutely fried Trump. And I quote him. He said what Joe Biden's debate performance in June was, that was Trump's performance this evening. But at least, even though Biden gave up a bad performance in June, he told the fucking truth. This man gave up a bad performance, and on top of it, because he will be fact checked, he was fact checked by the moderators. He'll be fact checked even more, and you will find out it was lies on top of lies, and the crazy shit that he said. And I'm still trying to. And I was looking online, and there's a lot of people out there online tonight. We'll want to know, who the fuck is Abdul? Who is Abdul that he said that don't do it? And he sent the picture of Abdul's house to Abdul, and I guess he threatened to blow Abdul up. Who the fuck is Abdul?
Abdul said, "What is this about?"
Who the fuck is Abdul?
What?
He said, Abdul said, just send me my picture of my house for. He said, well, you got to
figure it out. Yeah, you got to figure it out. Wait, who the fuck?
Yep.
I mean, look, she fried this dude on everything. She put her foot all up in his ass. It hurt him so bad when she basically fried him on his campaign rallies. She fried him on that. When she said, he talked about, he said, what did he say? That he got more votes than anybody. He got 70-some million votes and all of this, and she just clapped back on him and said, well, hold up. You were fired by 81 million people. You couldn't take that.
Yep.
She talked about how the military leaders around, and that's our military leaders, say, dude, you are a disgrace. And who do we bring up? Victor Orban, of all people in the world.
Yeah.
And I seen some. Before I get to one point I want to make. Then he says, didn't they ask him, do you have a plan to replace Obamacare? The motherfucker says, I have a concept of a plan. What the fuck is the concept? He said they're going to work on it. Yeah, then he said, I have a concept. What the fuck is a concept of a plan?
It's 2025.
Okay, but I want to bring up something I saw just a little while ago. And when I tell you that he has a woman problem, his woman problem got even bigger tonight because of the grassroots donors in the first hour, in the first hour to Kamala Harris's campaign.
She trending.
71% of the grassroots donors to Kamala Harris campaign in the first hour were women. And I keep saying, and I said it for the longest time, he got a women problem. He is not, and women vote reliably, and they vote in numbers that are bigger than men. Women are going to end his career November 5th.
Now that independent voter lady said, oh, he's in there lying about abortion. So what is so hard for your vote then? She made herself look stupid in that fucking clip. Well, I can't take it when he sit there and lie about abortion. But I figure out what you trying to vote for. See how dumb that sounded, bro?
How can you sit there and you say
dumb shit?
You say that one of the candidates, you know that he is lying. You know that he is lying about one of the few major issues. One of the major issues. What the major issues of this campaign is abortion and women's health care. That is I would say it's in the top 3 issues of the campaign, and you know he is lying. and you still undecided. What the fuck are you? What the fuck are you looking for?
Then on top of that, the lady beside her. Well, she did have a good debate, but I still don't know. What? What are you trying? You need these people to do backflips, dunk from the free throw? What the fuck are you looking for here, young? We confused now.
I will say this.
The fuck?
After what happened at the happened with that CNN, the black guy on CNN. What was that at the convention? After that, I don't trust none of them. I don't trust none of them allegedly independent voters, because you can see tonight that
ain't
they
no
talk
such thing.
And I'm trying to figure out how you got independent and you only got 3 of them. You only got 3. You got 2 women and you got a dude, and you could clearly see that the dude favored Trump. He wanted Trump.
Yeah,
he wanted Trump to win. He wanted Trump to look good and win the debate.
Yeah.
That's what he really wanted.
He felt so. He looked so sad.
He just looked stupid. But look,
he just started looking at the ceiling when they were saying they felt bad about him lying about abortion. He looked at the ceiling.
Yeah, I'm gonna say this.
Like, what, nigga? Like, y'all not no fucking independent voters. Why the fuck are you redneck Trump voters sitting here for?
I think, and this is what I predict that will happen. And I thought so, that if he looked it bad in the debate, and he looked it real bad tonight.
Let me ask you, do he look bad to the MAGA still?
He'll never look bad to he'll never look bad to MAGA.
That was he brought up that
because
shit.
That
shit.
They'll come out. You'll get somebody like Reels tomorrow. They'll come out and say that the shit was true. Yeah. That it is people out here eating cats and dogs. When you got a picture, it is a picture out there, because we've shown it on this podcast. It is a picture of RFK Jr. eating a dog, eating a barbecue dog. So it's not Haitians that's doing it. It's Trump supporters that's eating dogs. But I believe,
don't forget, that's racist too.
I think starting tonight and into tomorrow, you're going to see mainstream media really start to turn on Trump, and you're going to see by the end of this week and in the next week, you're going to see people leaving the campaign.
What?
I believe that.
Where you get that from?
Because it's a campaign that's going nowhere. It will not be. Look, Kamala Harris came out. Her campaign has already put out that they want a second debate. He will not debate her again, and there was no way in hell there's no way in hell he's going to debate her again, and there's no way in hell they're going to put JD Vance out there with.
That's the next cooker. Put him in the cooker.
That's not going to.
They already agreed though.
They gonna agree. They can agree all they want. They can agree all they want. They're not. That one is not.
Man, he's not Trump. He's not backing out of shit.
That's not happening.
Oh, what about the JD Vance question?
Yeah, look, he said tonight that he don't even talk to JD Vance about policy.
I don't even.
You're going to see. Watch.
He said he might have his own views about stuff. I haven't talked to him yet.
No, because he don't supposed to have his own views. He's your running mate. You are at the top of the ticket. Your views are his views.
Oh,
that's the way it works. That's why you got. They keep on trying to put. They're trying to put. Trying to connect Kamala Harris to Joe Biden because he's at the top of the ticket. That's why I keep saying her boss. It's not her views. And they keep saying, why did you do it? Why you didn't do this in 3.5 years? Because she is not the president. No, she is not the top
She
dog.
had a slick response to that, though. She was like, you and Biden has been president. I've never been president. That's a good response because everybody has been president. She the only one that's been in this race between Biden and Trump that had not actually been president. Biden and Trump has been president. She's the one. She actually is the new breed.
Yeah. Trump says on Truth Social tonight, I thought that was my best debate ever, especially since it was 3-on-1. So he's going to
he didn't say them or not. No.
Yes, he did.
No, he's not. No.
Come on, you didn't think that?
No. He's not gonna say the moderators did anything.
Yes, he is.
No.
Yes, he is.
No.
And you best believe that if he have a rally tomorrow,
No, it's no way possible.
If
No
he
way.
has a rally tomorrow or anytime
It
this
is
week,
no way possible.
he is going in. He is going
You
in on the
can't.
moderators.
What can he say? What? That the moderators to him? No. Now she can come on to my
They ask him the right kind of questions.
Let this fool ramble.
Look, this is the
Like,
deal with that.
What?
This is the deal with that. Tonight,
his
performance was so bad that you won't lose any MAGA support because MAGA support is going to be with him regardless. Now, other moderate Republicans, you're going to see them start to defect. So he did not do anything tonight to bring anything or any new people to the campaign or any new support to his campaign.
But she did.
She did.
She damn sure did.
But for him to keep the race, I guess, and that he was saying respectable, he is going to now go in on the media even harder.
Another thing, his body language in this joint was crazy,
was fucked up,
bro. Whole time he's down like this. He never looked that way at all. And then sometimes they when she say something he ain't like, he frown his face up. Man, we had these little short clips of him. He gonna look crazy when the memes, bro. Them memes gonna have him fucked up.
I'm telling you, right now. Look, we talked about this last night. We talked about her momentum and how he was up. He was up 3-4 and some polls even 5, maybe 6 points. When she got into the race in the first couple of weeks, she erased it. She erased that lead. She eliminated his lead. If the race was tied, and then she started to take the lead. And when she is leading in most polls, in one poll, I think in Pennsylvania, he's supposed to be tied. In what was it, Nevada? He was leading.
Yeah.
Okay. That momentum has put more fuel on that fire tonight. She should, by next week, she should be up. If she ain't up 7-8 points, something.
7-8 points?
Yeah. Because look, he's going to lose it. Look, nobody.
He never will go under 45. There's no way. Nothing will make him go under 45. There's no way you can get 57 points ahead of that.
Then if it's 55-45.
Now I say if you say she crossed the 50,
she already crossed.
Point, if she stay above that, I get you.
She's already
but to
over.
stay 7 points. There's no way possible.
In a lot of polls, she's over 50%. She's 51 in some and 52 in others. So she's getting there. If she get to like 53-54%, that's with that's outside of the margin of error. And she'll get that because he lost the night. He ain't bringing nothing new. And who the fuck is going to support him after that performance?
They gonna spend this. You seen Rockamoo?
They're gonna spend it
and all them fools.
Yeah, they can spend all they want.
It was crazy.
But I'm willing to bet you
that cat shit. He said some other wild shit too.
This is the thing about that. I am willing to bet that if this isn't the most watched debate ever, I would think it would be in the top 3, definitely in the top 5.
And don't forget, he would not answer the question, will he veto a bill to ban abortion? He would not answer that question. In fact, he moved on to the border.
That's why she got 71% of grassroots donors in the first hour were women. What did they talk about? What was one of the second subject? Was abortion. That was early in the first
when he
hour.
lied from the beginning. Yeah.
Like I say, you're gonna watch. Look, his ship was already unsteady and it was starting to go down. Tonight, you saw a sinking ship.
And you want something to say, Gava?
Yeah, the part where she when he asked about the black and the Indian heritage. And
okay.
He tried to avoid answering, but he still said some stuff that was unnecessary. But
He didn't want to say what he said at first. He tried not to
Yeah.
say that. He said the journalist joint. He tried his
Yeah,
best
so-
not to say that.
But
He
her
still said it
rebuttal-
in a way.
Yeah, but her rebuttal was even better. Remember, your company was under investigation for not selling to renting to black owners. You know, that's your rental company that's involved with that, not selling to black owners. Oh, you posted an ad on the New York Times.
That got on the skin too.
The Black Five, the five people.
And then he had the nerve to say, "Oh, they said they was guilty." What?
Yeah, they never said they was guilty.
They did plead guilty.
They had no choice to plead guilty.
They said they was
It was forced.
plead guilty though.
Well, they got what they wanted tonight. The endorsement that they wanted, they just got.
But they didn't do it. And everybody knew they didn't do it. By evidence, he still put out the shit and said he still wanted to do it.
Well,
so you don't need to backtrack now, you bitch ass nigga.
Damn, that's.
But he did. He just said you brought up 50-year-old stuff.
Good lord.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, motherfucker.
Go back.
Because you the oldest president, motherfucker.
Exactly. The old stuff. I wasn't that old when all that was going on.
No bullshit, yeah.
The Swifties in the house because Taylor Swift has just endorsed Kamala Harris.
I really appreciate everybody tuning in tonight. You know us. We're gonna be back here tomorrow night and Friday night
Here
to
we go
digest
again.
this thing. You know what I'm saying, dog?
Here we go again.
But this here is the to me, she did better than Hillary by two things, right? Hillary didn't shake his hand, right? Not only did she shake his hand, he was not going to shake his hand. He was
forced it.
Yeah, he was not going to shake her hand. In fact, he was kind of blown that she came over there to shake his hand. You feel me? That right there, that whole scene right there gonna make him look crazy, right? Because she's a lady, bro. Why you treat this person like a lady at this moment? Now you see what I'm saying?
You didn't want to shake her hand. She
Yeah.
forced the issue, and then you spent a 90-minute debate where you couldn't even look at and acknowledge this woman.
He wouldn't even walk towards her to make the handshake. She had to go all the way to his thing, and then say, "I'm Kamala," and that she said it because they never met.
Yeah.
And then you got this real live dog eater coming out tonight.
And he should have
talking
been
about
like,
the shit was.
He should have been like, "Look, I'm Trump."
People are
Shit he
saying,
say,
baby,
you know what I'm saying? Be like,
kiss my ass.
and nice to meet you, right? I don't even think he did that.
He made it smirk.
He put a little hand out and put it back down. Like, she made him look bad right there, bro. So right there was something that Hillary didn't do. Hillary just avoided, she didn't touch him at all, right? So I think now looking back, this was more of a better aggressive move to go at him and see how he react to touch your black hand. You see what I'm saying? And he ain't really want to do that.
Well, hey,
at all.
Hey, Reels, if you listening tonight, I'm gonna hit you up tomorrow because I want you to come on because I want to hear what you got to say about this.
Yeah,
because
special edition.
I'm on X right now, and I'm gonna be checking out TikTok in a little bit. But right now, MAGA is in the mix of a nuclear 3 Mile Island type meltdown right now, and it ain't looking good.
It's not a good joint. I'm gonna tell y'all that now.
Hey, the Harris campaign is calling for a second debate. So you know that's all about. She gonna make him look like a.
She got him on the ropes. She
make it look like a shit.
So right now, you're already on the ropes. Then you wake up in the morning, you got to answer to another debate.
You ain't having no. He gonna say I won the debate. So what he's gonna say is that's why he coming out tonight acting like he won and Robert Kennedy.
On Fox. If I'm heard, I'm going on Fox. Fuck
Robert Kennedy Jr. is now he's echoing Trump's statement that the moderators was biased. So
what
they'll say,
y'all no, there's nobody watch that can even agree with that shit. You can't.
And it don't stop you from saying it.
But you just can't. Where did that even come from? That's not happened. That didn't happen tonight. You know that, right?
We know it.
It was nothing there biased for. There was nothing. Like for him to say that, it's just like she said, it's like you just pull out shit out of the playbook.
Oh my God.
Now at this point.
I'm gonna get up in the morning and look at Morning Joe because I know Joe, Mika, Willie, and what's my man, Eugene Robinson, and all Al Sharpton and all them gonna have a ball tomorrow morning. This is gonna be one of the best Morning Joes ever. And I'm gonna look at that. But what I'm looking for tomorrow, I want to see how many people watch this debate, because I think it's definitely top 5. I believe top 3. If not, it wouldn't surprise me that it's the most watched debate in TV history. And if it's the most, if it's the top 3 to the most watched, that is really bad. That is really
what she
bad.
should do.
Because I put it like this: it's more people watch this debate tonight than watch that debate with Trump and Biden. I'm quite sure of that. And the more eyes that was on this debate tonight, the worse it is for Trump, because people got to see somebody that you really don't want in the White House.
So we appreciate y'all a whole lot tuning in tonight, man. We watch this debate watch party, you know what I'm saying, dog? But check us out tomorrow. We're gonna dig deeper into this joint. We're gonna have this thing open for anybody want to come in, MAGAs and Republicans and all that. This is the debate time. This is time for us to debate. We got our policies. You got your policies. Let's debate these things. You know what I'm saying? First, y'all was debating on personal shit. We ain't had nothing. Let's debate now. Let's get it. If you're MAGA out there, if you're a Republican out there, if you're independent, fake like these motherfuckers on TV, this podcast is always open to all of y'all. We're gonna put the link in the chat when we come in tomorrow for show for any slide through. Sure.
And Patrick Mahomes, I fuck with you as a football player, but your jackass MAGA wife is an idiot.
You got a MAGA wife?
Oh, you know Brittany? You ain't know Brittany Mahomes was MAGA?
Oh,
talking about politics coming from the view of the streets. You know what I'm saying, dog? We're not coming from professional view. We're not lawyers. None of that shit is on TV. You know what I'm saying? We come straight from the hood. The hood view.